This program deals with devil worship and satanic beliefs. It contains explicit scenes and descriptions of violent crimes and rituals.
Americans are asking, who attacked our country?
You have declared a subliminal jihad against the United States. Can you tell us why?
Everything pertaining to what's happening has never come to the surface. The world will never know the true facts of what occurred, my motives.
And night fell on a different world.
And Iblis is thinking, I should be getting this position, not Adam, and this guy is created from dirt.
And how does the army feel about you being head of the temple of Set?
And the conspiracy theorists can say what they will, but
I want you to give me power over Adam, and I want you to give me soldiers and minions and all of these things.
The people's hands have had so much to gain and had such an imperial motive to put me in a position I'm in. We'll never let the true facts of some of their boards to the world.
And I want you to be able to give me the ability to whisper into the hearts of mankind.
And who was the Grotto leader? Don't remember his name. You don't remember the name of a person who involved you in murder?
Now they speak for very high position. Yeah. Yes.
Welcome back to Subliminal Jihad, episode 106. I am your co-host, Dimitri.
I'm Khaled.
And today, we're finally back with another installment of the Grotto Q&A series.
Yeah.
It's been a while. I guess we did a call-in, which was kind of a substitute.
That counts. Yeah, that counts.
But we're stacking
them. Yeah. People might have used their questions that they had. In a couple of months when we finally get to the questions that people were asking at the time, we may find that some of them were actually asked during the call-in. So, in a way,
yes,
we were working through them, maybe slightly out of order. I don't know.
We're always working through them. And,
yeah, we always are. We're in the mines.
At this point, we are
question mines.
We are working our way through summer 2021. I think this is the month of July, basically, these questions. But some of them, as often happens, they're pretty relevant. We got some interesting curveballs and some synchronicities today. So yeah, I guess you know what? Let's get into it. All right, I'll read the first one.
Sure.
Which is from HD Case, and they ask, "What's your guys' take on the Nuremberg UFO sighting of 1561?"
Yeah, I thought this was interesting. I mean, this is one of the ones you hear about a lot, I feel like. This is maybe the, most famous, early modern UFO sighting, I guess because Carl Jung talked about it. So that's maybe why it's become so famous. I don't know if anybody else drew attention to it as well or sort of highlighted it. I mean, you hear about things like the Fatima stuff, things that aren't conventionally being seen as falling within the flying saucer thing. I mean, it's a whole trope at this point of strange events in the sky being kind of retroactively classed with the UFO phenomenon, which I mean makes sense. I guess there's maybe a difference in those sort of flying saucers that are so colored by the ET hypothesis association. But really, I mean, it is unidentified flying objects, so I guess it does sort of belong generally to the topic of UFOs. But yeah, so I mean, maybe if people don't know about this, basically, one day in Nuremberg, in 1561, people saw this crazy apparition in the sky. There's a famous woodcut, I want to say, of it.
Yeah, there is.
In the way that people would create these woodcuts about sort of current events. It's actually kind of interesting because they do this crazy compression of time. You can actually get woodcuts of more conventional things like parades and have the whole parade happening at once. It's interesting.
Wow.
It's kind of this.
Is
sort
that
of
why some of those
idiom.
medieval woodcuts look so crowded all the time?
Yeah,
there's
possibly.
they have weird depth things going on of just there's things on top of things. Oh,
yeah, very possibly. It depends, I guess, on the woodcut in particular, but yeah, definitely that was a technique that they would illustrate a current event. And they would show everything happening kind of layered all over each other, and you would kind of have to intuit that it was in a sequence based on kind of the visual language. So in that
makes
picture,
sense because the woodcut looks so chaotic. It's like a Michael Bay movie or something.
Yeah.
Like there's so many like weird orbs and like cylinders like floating around in the sky, and the sun has these kind of like downward facing bow, almost like a new moon actually, or I'm sorry, like a sliver moon, like facing upwards, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like behind the sun, or behind
the
this
sun has like
sun-like
these
object.
two kind of like crescent moon shaped arcs behind it, pointing up towards like the top of the sun,
Yeah.
or, the head of
So
the,
a lot of
which has a
people-
face, of course, in
It does have a face,
classic
always.
fashion. Yeah, but it doesn't look happy about like the UFO battle that's going on around it, because that was like how this was perceived. Like it was like a battle between factions of some kind of like aerial entities or intelligences or factions of some kind.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a lot of the sort of contemporary coverage was based on that perception. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think that, like, there definitely are, like, debunky explanations of this that one could have, but I don't really know, like, how much I buy those, because one that I heard was that it was this event called, like, a sundog that I guess came out sort of recently, like someone maybe saw it on Ancient Aliens, who has like a blog that's based on like debunking everything that is mentioned on Ancient Aliens, and their take on this was that it was like this event where like bright spots appear around the sun, but that seems like not what this is. Like it seems
this
like
seemed a lot more intense than that.
Yeah, much more intense. I'm not satisfied with that explanation. Like I don't know, people like in early modernity or in medieval times like weren't like stupid. Like they could definitely like and I think that there probably are like accounts of something like that happening and being recognized like for what it was, and not like this prodigious like battle in the sky between.
I find it hard
like,
to believe
bizarre
that every
forces.
single sighting, in ancient times was like mistaking some kind of aurora borealis or some natural phenomenon that nowadays like we can easily point out as being natural. I'm not quite buying it. That,
No,
like,
I mean,
if there are
today,
UFOs today
like,
that we can't
yeah.
explain, of course there were things back. It would make sense that maybe there were things back then, even though it does seem to have really picked up after like 1947 in a weird way. But
well, I think that
nonetheless,
it's a little bit like, it's different because like the fact is that like now we have like man-made airplanes, and people mistake airplanes and satellites for UFOs all the time.
True.
Like, so a lot of UFO sightings are going to be, a lot of them are actually mundane phenomena or people mistaking aircraft. So obviously when aircraft, like commercial aircraft or aircraft of various kinds, especially aircraft around military bases, become more prevalent, then, you're going to have more UFO sightings. But
for sure.
At the same time, like, I don't think that really like explains like all UFO sightings. I think, I was just listening recently to Jimmy's appearance on Skeptico, which was just, props to Jimmy, a friend of the pod, Jimmy Fallon Gong, for, enduring with grace, like, quite addressing down over the importance of the ET hypothesis and everything like that. And Betty and Barney Hill and Travis Walton and all that stuff, kind of Jimmy making the case for there being like sort of a more terrestrial psyop explanation for a lot of these UFO experiences, which I think definitely like there are like human agencies involved. That's like pretty well established. And
I think they're definitely in the mix.
yeah, there's
They're definitely
definitely
in the mix.
like UFO psyops that occur, like that we have records of. But yeah, I don't think that accounts for all of it. I think that there is like, there's a abduction phenomenon that is separate and like a UFO phenomenon that is separate. No, it isn't really separate because they do interact with each other, actually, I think, to some extent. But like I think that maybe these psyop activities that happen, or these like staged abductions or staged UFO sightings, are directed in some way at interfering or manipulating like the actual phenomenon. I think that they bleed over into each other in a lot of ways. But I do think that there's something like more than just that going on. It's not just like one day they're like, let's pretend to be whatever. Let's pretend to be spacemen. I mean, I think that they do favor the idea that it's aliens from outer space rather than the obvious other explanation that it's Jinn. But you know,
yeah.
But I do think that there's some kind, you know, like because you have like, you know, the Nuremberg is actually a good example, but you also have like parallels to the abduction phenomena, like going back like, you know, centuries. So I think that does suggest that there is something like a bit more extensive going on.
I'm looking at Carl Jung's letter commenting on UFOs. I think in the 1957 that I guess is kind of memorable and stuff.
Yeah, did he talk about the Nuremberg thing in there or no?
Well, I think he probably talked about it in his book Flying Saucers, A Modern Myth of
yeah.
Things Seen in the Skies. And he examined it, not the reality or unreality of the titular phenomena, but their psychic aspect, or what it may signify that these phenomena, whether real or imagined, are seen in such numbers just at a time, the Cold War, when humankind is menaced as never before in history. But he said, you know, I guess he said because they are a modern myth, in a way they are real. But okay, he said in this letter, because I think it captures kind of what we're talking about. He said he was writing to the New Republic editor Gilbert A. Harrison, who wanted, I guess, Jung to do like some kind of article or series on UFOs. But he said the problem of the UFOs is, as you rightly say, a very fascinating one, but it is as puzzling as it is fascinating, since, in spite of all the observations I know of, there is no certainty about their very nature. On the other side, there is an overwhelming material pointing to their legendary or mythological aspect. As a matter of fact, the psychological aspect is so impressive that one almost must regret that the UFOs seem to be real after all. I have followed up the literature as much as possible, and it looks to me as if something were seen and even confirmed by radar, but nobody knows exactly what is seen. In consideration of the psychological aspect of the phenomenon, I've written a booklet about it, which is soon to appear. It's also in the process of being translated in English. Unfortunately, being occupied with other tasks, I'm unable to meet your proposition. Being rather old, I have to economize my energies. So yeah. He basically believed that it was both a mythological, like, social phenomenon and a real physical phenomenon, and that's what was kind of so bizarre.
Well, it's interesting that he
about
said
them.
the psychological aspect is so impressive that one almost must regret the UFOs seem to be real after all. But I think that actually, like, you know, almost everything has like a psychological aspect and a social aspect. But I think definitely like psychological factors bear on encounters with UFOs. Like, I mean, in a way, like a lot of experiences, especially like experiences of like the numinous, like in any way, or like quote unquote paranormal experiences, are like heavily inflected by like the observer. There's a kind of an observer effect going on like a lot of the time, and like everything as well is like socially contingent. So that's definitely like a factor that cannot be separated. And like we've talked about this in the past, like this is one of like Jacques Vallée, who like despite being a sus lord, like you know, this is one of his big insights that like the like sort of skeleton or the structure of like a UFO encounter is very consistent transhistorically, but like the actual sort of details change, or the sort of specifics of the appearance change, you know, like in the 19th century, all like the airship encounters of like strange, you know, like steampunk UFOs and stuff like people saw, or like when in medieval times, like people would get like you know, picked up by like a big rope hook that would like come down from like one of these flying, you know.
See,
like,
that's so weird. So it basically, there is a social, psychological, and even like technological contingency in people's experiences with these things.
The vocabulary that people have, like the imaginative vocabulary people have, is in some way like adapted by, you know, whatever the phenomenon is.
It's like when people say like, oh, in the Bible it talks about like flaming chariots flying around in the sky, like chariots of the gods. So like, oh, that was actually like a flying saucer, you know, like
that's exactly what the Nuremberg thing, like in its place in ufology, is an example of like the Ezekiel thing where he says like, I saw wheels within wheels. And like there were living creatures atop of the wheels, you know, they're like, oh my God, it was Greys. It's like, okay, so the Greys have like the face of a lion, the face of an eagle, you know, it's just like kind of like,
maybe they did,
you know, all right.
Maybe because they could only conceive of animals back then, you know.
They could only conceive of animals. I mean, that was
he
saw quite an impressive.
Seeing the face of God would kill you, so you know maybe it had to be like a man with a lion's head, like you know, like the Egyptians.
Well, yeah, I think that those were supposed to be, or they were considered to be, like angels, or. You know, in the sort of exegetical literature. I'm not sure if they I don't think they were identified as angels in actual Ezekiel itself, but I think that they were later on considered to be
Nephilim.
angels. And even that's the biblically accurate angel is the throne angel, the one that's the wheels within wheels. So like,
Interesting.
But
we all know they were cosmonauts from Phaeton. The survivor cosmonauts from Phaeton who landed.
Right. I mean, well, there's a little bit of a difference, although I think that there is some of the same like phenomena happening or some of the same dynamics at play. Like, that's kind of like an angelic experience, and UFO encounters like have a slightly different nature. They're generally more like, well, I mean, there's some crossover.
More
You can have like they're definitely more Jinn-like,
right?
but
because they're ambiguous.
Generally,
like sometimes the alien's like, I am your like race father. I'm here to enlighten you, and then other times they're like probing you, like steal you and like torture you. So it's like really there's a real range of goodness or badness. That
or just like idiosyncrasy. I mean, there are stories of like sort of rapture, like by angels, like thinking of the revelation of the Quran the first time, like Muhammad like feel like Jibreel like hugging him so tightly that he felt like he might die, when the Quran is like imparted to him. Like that's like, kind of has like certain similarities, but there's also like, and people like, have like sort of these like white light, peaceful space brother like UFO encounters that maybe could be described as like angelic visitations. But the thing is, angels, traditionally speaking, like it's very, very rare to like encounter angels. I feel like people probably like see angels like more now, like a report seeing angels like in like a touched by an angel type way more now than they did like in the past, except for maybe the angel of death. The angel of death is commonly seen by people if they feel like they're about to die. There's a lot of stories of that. So
that too,
which maybe has a connection with people give aliens a connection with death sometimes in the NDE sort of discourse. So this actually kind of reminded me of this story from Ibn Fadlan, who was like the basis for Antonio Banderas' character in the movie The 13th Warrior. And like his travelogue is like what the Michael Crichton book that the movie is based on was itself based on. And he had like a similar report that this, thinking about this reminded me of, talking about his travels like in the north of the world, kind of in the, Scandinavian regions. I'm not sure if he was quite that far when he reported this, but he said, "In this country I saw uncounted marvels. Thus, the first night that we spent in this land, before the light of the sun faded, I saw the horizon turn a bright shade of red in the upper air, and there was a great noise and tumult. I raised my head and saw a red mist like fire close to me. The tumult and noise issued from it, and in the cloud were the shapes of men and horses. These spectral men held lances and swords. I could see them clearly and distinguish them. Then suddenly another bank of mist appeared, just like the first, in which I saw men, horses, and arms. It advanced to charge the first, as one cavalry detachment falls upon another. Frightened, we began to pray and beseech God most humbly, while the locals laughed at us and were astonished at our behavior. We watched the two armies charging. They clashed for a moment and then parted, and so it continued for an hour after nightfall. Then they vanished. We questioned the king on this subject. He claimed that his ancestors said, 'They are the believing and the unbelieving jinn. They fight every evening and have not failed to do so every night since they were first created.'" So, like, that's something. You mentioned the Aurora Borealis. A lot of people say, like, oh, he saw the Aurora Borealis. But I don't think that anyone, and that would kind of fit with, like, the people who he's visiting being, like, like, kind of laughing and not viewing this as, like, an unusual thing. But, they still kind of did describe it in those terms. And what he describes doesn't really seem to match up with the Aurora Borealis. Like, why does the Aurora Borealis make all these loud sounds of swords clashing? And like,
I don't think so. I don't know what its movement is like, but I feel like maybe it does kind of like glisten and dance a little bit. But I don't think it makes loud like thunderclap noises. Yeah,
you definitely can. Yeah, like see images like in pretty much any like celestial phenomena, like clouds. You can make out something, but I don't know. And the Northern Lights are very impressive, but at the same time, I don't know. I like.
No, I mean that sounds like a kind of a weak sauce explanation.
I don't know. Yeah,
it was just the Northern Lights. Okay,
I don't know. Yeah, but similar
that's
of
an interesting anecdote.
Yeah,
but maybe since we're up in Scandinavia now, maybe we should transition into our second question, which is quite I'd say reasonably related to this subject.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I'll read that one. So
Okay.
Pooh McDonald asks, I always forget to submit my questions until I see the Q&A apps come out. Anyway, I would be really interested in what the host had to say about flat Earth theory. Not so much is the Earth flat, but all the ins that go with it. Nazis, aliens, spiritualism, etc. And the fact that the epic debunker documentaries seem to come out about it like twice a year. Thanks, guys. Big fan of the show.
Good old flat Earth.
Yeah, I feel like one of
Surprise.
the like very popular explanations for like the rise in flat Earth stuff is that it's like a psyop. I'm not
Yeah.
really sure whether the dynamics of it being a psyop is supposed to be like they're trying to get people to believe in flat Earth to like shitcoat things, or like they're misrepresenting how many people actually believe in it. Because I still do feel like a worrying amount of people actually do think that the Earth is flat, like which is. I feel
Yeah.
like, again, this is a similar thing where more people now believe the Earth is flat than have ever believed it, I think.
Maybe. I mean, sure, probably just in sheer numbers because of our population growth.
Yes,
but in terms of per capita of the population.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that were true because I think, like, the idea that people believe the Earth was flat. I mean, yeah, the Earth is, like, phenomenologically flat, and maybe most people, like, don't really, like, think about it, like, but people have known that the Earth is round for a long ass time, like,
Yeah, I'm seeing that the ancient Greece abandoned their flat Earth, their belief in the flat Earth around 323 BC. So,
yeah, like no one really thought the Earth was flat.
Yeah, like Plato and Aristotle both wrote about how the Earth was spherical.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, it's not like I think we often hear that it was like, it must have been Galileo or Copernicus that,
right.
Before that, the church was just like, no, it's flat. But
yeah,
I don't even know if the church preached
No,
that
they
it was
didn't.
flat.
They thought that they did maintain that the Earth was the center of, like, that the sun revolved around the Earth and stuff like that.
They were heliocentrics.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Galileo didn't really have the proof to show otherwise, even though, he was correct. He kind of like speculated, but it didn't quite. They weren't quite able to make the measurements. It's just like Chomsky. They weren't able. That's why he always compares himself to Galileo because like. We're not able to build the universal translating machine, but, eventually we will, and all of Chomsky's theories will be vindicated.
I just want to do a little collection because there's often a lot of Polish erasure around this subject. It was Nicholas Copernicus that actually established heliocentrism, not Galileo. Galileo was after. He established something else that was like important, but
yes,
step off Italians. No offense, but.
Yeah, no, that's true, but but I think at the time, like of Galileo, generally like geocentrism was still upheld, like right? Am I
think
wrong?
he was. I'm pretty sure that I'm trying to think what Galileo.
It's a bit more complicated than people often say. Like, it wasn't just that, like, the church, like, denied science. It was like, that he actually, not to defend, like, the Catholic Church too much. But like most things, it's a bit more nuanced than like the classic story of Galileo that you always hear maintains it to be.
So basically, he started championing Copernicus's theories of heliocentrism, and then got into it with the Catholic Church. So he did not discover it, but he like jumped, and I think he built upon it with his other astronomical discoveries after that. Did they end up killing him? I forget.
No, I don't think that they killed him.
He was harassed.
I think that he might have been like jailed. And like, well, I mean, we all know his famous last words of like "Iper simuov" or whatever. It still moves. I don't think that those were said like on,
and yet it moves.
Yeah, I don't think that those were said like on the gallows. He spent the rest of his life under house arrest.
Damn. Okay, but flat Earth. Okay, this idea has been. I don't know exactly when. So I guess the Catholic Church really was kind of still sticking to that for a while, geocentrism at the very least. They called it foolish and ridiculous that the Earth was not the center of the galaxy, but nonetheless, I mean, I think there's been just as like
he also just like a Betsy Ross thing. Just to clarify, he did not actually say, "and yet it moves." That's like made up, obviously. Like just to clarify, he didn't say that.
The conspiracy of history.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but then I remember that I remember 2015 specifically was the year that flat Earth stuff started like flooding YouTube. Like it really did kind of come out of nowhere. Like nobody was really talking about. It's always been there on the fringe and stuff. I'm sure in the 19th century, I'm seeing like drawings here from like the 1890s by Orlando Ferguson, who drew a popular flat Earth map in 1893, etc. But like you never heard of, even in the conspiracy kind of world, this was like very, very marginal. And then suddenly all these videos started coming out, and I mean, they were almost. I wouldn't say they were like.
Map. This is like a crater Earth. This is even more than a flat Earth, where you have like the crater Earth, the Orlando.
Yeah, you're right. It's
Ferguson
like a concave
map.
Earth.
Yeah, exactly. That's one take you could have.
But I remember seeing like the videos. I mean, a lot of them were kind of like crappy, but there were a lot of them, and they were all pushing like a certain set of ideas, almost like right out of the gate. And like, I don't know, they'd always have like videos of people flying like over Greenland and like, look at the horizon, like it's not bent or something. They try to do something to like make it look like, oh, it's actually, or they would look at flight patterns around the world. It's like, why does it make sense that like, somebody flies?
I remember
like,
that.
Why does nobody fly over Antarctica or like the Arctic or whatever?
They don't understand that like map compressions like are different, and like that the distance like isn't exactly like what's represented. Yeah, like it's.
Also, I don't know if isn't it like danger? Wouldn't you think it's like more dangerous?
It's probably
maybe,
more
to like
dangerous.
fly over the Arctic Circle like that. Like,
I don't really know for sure, but I think that it's actually like a greater distance than maybe it's not like a video game or something where like you instantly spawn like on the other side of the map. Like you have to like cross the entire North Pole. Like it's usually not.
Well, there's also air currents that are like vast. That's why like all the planes kind of fly one route, like say going from the West Coast to the East Coast, and they fly another specific kind of route because they're like you're flying with or against the wind. So like there probably are a lot of like.
There's also magnetic issues apparently.
Oh, interesting.
Just imagine, think like if a plane like had some kind of issue, like and had to like land, but they were flying over Antarctica just to prove that the Earth was round. This suck.
Well, then we're in like Bermuda Triangle territory where like instruments don't work.
Also,
and
like obviously
that.
you can't fly over Antarctica because that's where like John Kerry and they all have like their bases. Like their
that's where the Nazi
bases.
alien base is.
So if people flew over Antarctica, then so
it's really at a certain point you get down to the level of like what like is flat Earth a psyop covering up for like other psyops, or it's just like but also it's like a meta psyop by seeding this into the sort of bloodstream of like YouTube conspiracy culture. Is everything that is even adjacent to it going to get shit coded? Because like that was always like I feel like a dumb like normie kind of thing to say. Like, what do you believe the Earth is flat? Like
it's
for
like a
probably the entire
type thing. Yeah,
like the whole 20th century.
Past the anti-Semitic point of no return to think the world is flat.
Seek help.
I mean, probably there are a fair number of people who are anti-Semitic and think the world is flat, but there's no real inherent correlation between the two.
No, and I don't know. I saw overlap with like Nazis. It makes me think of like Red Ice Radio, which is definitely one of those like conspiracy theory channels that was crypto Nazi, but like hid it relatively well enough that they could get a lot of people that were just kind of like reptoid pilled to like kind of tune in. And David Icke, that's almost like a little more of a liminal kind of case.
Does David Icke think the world is flat?
No. But like in terms of, he's talking about reptiles. He's really an anti-Semite. It's like, I mean, I don't know. I'm not completely sold. Like that's like, I don't know if that's the animating drive behind David Icke necessarily. I think he might be totally insane. He happened to be right a few times about like Jimmy Savile, but the flat Earth thing just seemed like it was a way to. It's interesting how it came out kind of like before QAnon as well. Because it has a similar dynamic in that with like a huge chunk of America, like that's immediately disqualifying. Like you really are in a seek help category if you believe the Earth is flat. And it's the same thing if like you believe in QAnon, like you can't be saved. Like you've gone insane, you've joined a cult, etc. And And that was, but then everybody is like afraid to be associated with it because it's so kind of toxic. And I mean, mostly for good reason, because it's not exactly convincing, though it is fun to think about, I suppose. It's one of those it's like the kind of like the new chronology thing. It's like 1,000 years were just made up, and it's like it's kind of fun to think about, but do I really believe it? Probably not.
I feel like flat earth is a little bit more fun, possibly because like when you talk about the new chronology and like everything being made up, there's like so much like political baggage to that, like political, like ideological baggage, whereas like just saying the earth is flat, like is just there's no real inherent ideological baggage to it, except for like the flat rejection of like really anything resembling like science, like in the most elemental sense, like not the capital S science of today, but just like literally like science in the sense of like knowledge, like the measurement of like one's perceptions and like the determination of like the empirical reality of certain things.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that probably the reason why there's a Nazi association is because, like, you know, there's kind of like a Gnostic appeal to believing the earth is flat in a way where like you're rejecting like the profane and embracing like, even though again, like with a lot of these sort of occultic, esoteric things, it's not true that like, you know, it's really traditional, but it feels like, you know, you're embracing the truth and some, you know, maybe if the world isn't literally flat, it's like spiritually flat with the Hyperboreans on top or something. So I think that in the same way,
that's kind of similar to the Hollow Earth. Like it's sort of a cousin of Hollow Earth. I feel like Hollow Earth is way more associated with like not like weird esoteric Nazis. Than maybe Flat Earth is.
Well, yeah, I think it's more popular in those esoteric circles. Like I'm pretty sure that like Blavatsky strongly implied the Earth was hollow. Like so, New Agers like in the 19th century were all about like hollow Earth, whereas Flat Earth was a bit more marginal. But yeah, I think they're obviously cousins because they're both alternative takes on the nature of the Earth physically. So you know, I feel like maybe that's part of the reason why there's a sort of Nazi or like a sort of a reactionary association or that it attracts that type of thought because, you know, like NASA's lying, like, you know, they're all Jews.
That's the other thing is I remember like the real culprit in Flat Earth, like the big boogeyman was NASA.
Exactly.
Like, NASA
just like how like in
lying.
Bigfoot, it's like the Bureau of like Wildlife Management or like whatever, you know, like.
Exactly. There was always like posting of like something that like NASA would post, people being like, LOL, like nice try NASA.
Yeah,
like
ballers,
like,
ballers stay losing, ballers coping, ballers.
Ballers.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of ballers, remember when Kyrie Irving came out and said he was a flat earther in like 2016? That was an interesting thing too.
That was a weird episode.
Did B.O.B. or was he just about cloning centers?
No, he did believe in the flat earth and he recorded a song about it called Flatline.
Oh, that's right. Flatline.
You fooled us for the last time. Yeah, exactly. And it was like actually like a clap back at Neil deGrasse Tyson because Neil deGrasse Tyson.
It was. They got no fight on Twitter.
Yeah, they had like a feud. It was funny. Yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like,
I remember that album was fire. Honestly, the B.O.B. album with Flatline.
It
had like shit about reptoids. It shit about the cloning centers.
I'm looking up the lyrics to Flatline right now because I remember them being pretty good, and he like really owned him too. Yeah, I mean, that's maybe that's a psyop, is like providing Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is like just someone who like you want the earth to be flat because Neil deGrasse Tyson is so insufferable. Like, you know, you don't want him to even be right about the earth being round. Yeah, I had to look up Flatline B.O.B. because like apparently Justin Bieber, trying to suppress the truth. They had their puppet
SEO
Justin
bearing.
Bieber come up with another,
Checkmate and a game of chess. Globalists see me as a threat.
Got the clones scared because, woo, use your common sense. Why is NASA part of the Department of Defense? It divided up the season to 33 degrees, feeding kids masonry. Bruh, be careful what you read.
Flatline. There's no superior bloodline. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
True.
Yeah, fuck these sickos. Heliocentrism, you were the sixth victim.
No.
Oh, man. Oh no! But see that I forgot at the last verse he says, "Do your research on David Irving. Stalin was way worse than Hitler." Oh come on! That's why the POTUS got to wear a kippah. Okay,
Whoa,
all right.
Yeah, see, there you go.
All right.
There you go.
So he was getting. It looks like he was getting influenced by some crypto Nazi flat earthers.
Yeah.
Stalin was way worse than Hitler. How could you be so? Yeah, whatever.
It's really funny that like that is like the salient thing that he has to point out. You know, like it really says a lot about like these sort of like networks of information where people get persuaded of the flat Earth stuff, like what their main priorities are. Like they need to convince you that Stalin was worse than Hitler, and like that Jews like are
Control the
world, I guess.
president.
Yeah.
Wow. Get a lawyer. Look up Dr. Richard Sauter. I don't know who that is, but yeah.
I want to know. Dr. Richard Sauter.
Oh, I see the mixtape, or maybe this is Flatline Part 2, but it's got like a snow
he was the
globe.
world's premier investigator of underground bases and tunnels.
Whoa. Okay, well, maybe we'll come
He
back.
wrote
I
a
don't know what
book called
B.O.B.'s
Hidden
up
in
to.
Plain Sight, Beyond the X-Files. I guess trying to do ride the coattails of the X-Files popularity in 2012. What are the secret underground bases? How far down do they go? What leaks are coming at? Wait. So I guess the world is like rectangular, really. Because if you have deep underground bases, how flat could the Earth be? I guess it's rectangular. Yeah, like no one thinks the Earth is like a plane, right? Like just a flat plane. Like obviously there's a little bit of depth to it. The surface of the Earth is flat. We all live on a flat plane, but underneath, who knows what's down there? Like it's oceans and oceans of reptoids.
In September 2017, B.O.B. sought $200,000 in donations to launch his own satellites to verify the shape of the Earth.
Wow, what happened? Did he verify it? What?
Well, he upped his request to $1 million to cover the cost of many test-seeking drones, weather balloons, and satellites. I don't think he raised it. He does have... It seems like he got really kind of like soft blacklisted after his whole flat Earth conspiracy theory come out.
Yeah, well...
Wow, Psychedelic Thoughts mixtape. He looks... It's like a Mayan, like ayahuasca... Oh, boy. He had his single Paranoid. I didn't realize that. It seems like he had been hinting at it for years, but now he can't. I guess he called out the Illuminati, so
yeah, he challenged them.
Yeah, where he hit him where it really hurts, the biggest lie of all. So yeah, I don't know. It seems like flat Earth it does seem to be like some kind of trap, but
it's definitely like a trap, and a lot of like roads lead you eventually to flat Earth shit. I think, like for whatever reason, that's like the honeypot or like the bottomless pit. Ironically, that
people like to say we're on a prison planet, and that just kind of literalizes it. Like we're literally in like a caged up.
That's a
snow
whole
globe.
other thing, yeah. That like but I feel like there's a lot of crossover with the moon being like an artificial satellite that is like trapping all of our souls.
Yeah, that's the like kind of Death Star station that monitors
Hollow
us.
moon, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Flat Earth, hollow moon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. So yeah, definitely like it does seem like something that has been like heavily like promoted or whatever for whatever reason that it just really captures a lot of enthusiasm, and like directs it into like believing that NASA is lying about. I mean, NASA is sus, but yeah, but
in perhaps different ways. Like this is maybe covering up for the real susness of NASA. Like murdering Brian De Palma's brother for creating a like perpetual energy machine, faking the moon landing. Maybe there's all kinds of things which B.O.B. believes that it was fake. But Pumlik Donald also says that like every year, like twice a year, there's like an epic debunker documentary that comes out, and I feel like it's like the preferred conspiracy topic for like blue check journalists to like. It's like the Fisher Price basketball hoop that they can dunk on all the time and like beef up their like conspiracy debunking credentials.
Oh, for sure, because like it's kind of like the ultimate slippery slope. If you question any authority, eventually you're going to believe that the Earth is flat, and like if we have any epistemic instability at all, or like any epistemic plurality or diversity, then like everyone's going to start thinking that the Earth is flat, which is like, very convenient. But a lot like, it's the like algorithms and like information warfare that like these people have unleashed that have proliferated ideas like that, which often like go hand in hand with like reactionary bullshit. Like that's you know, I mean, really, like, YouTube is to blame for this.
It
Like,
absolutely, it is YouTube's fault. Like I said, the first place I saw it was like it just flooded, and YouTube's been doing that shit with like UFO footage and
yeah,
all
for
kinds
sure.
of other
Well, if
stuff.
you get into
and
like, if you start at like the level of like, you know, UFOs, like being interested in like pictures of or videos of UFO sightings or credible UFO sightings or something, then like next thing you know, the algorithm is recommending you like, you know, more new age type shit, and then it's like, well, we're Nazis, and like, you know, it's like shit like that. So it's like,
and
yeah.
that was also coming out before they started kind of like Alex Jones was still like one of the biggest YouTube channels back when like Flat Earth blew up. I think he used to even complain about it, like they got the Flat Earth, like, you know, they're trying to like screw up our algorithm, you know, and basically like, you know, claiming that you know, big tech is trying to like shitcoat him, basically, you know, his truth bombs by associating with Flat Earth and a bunch of other stuff too that probably would get like ripped off of, though they still have tons of like insane right wing content and like fashy shit all over YouTube, so it's not really like they've gotten rid of it, but
yeah, you just have to work a little bit harder to find it.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
But I think you definitely will get like in anything
But that,
spiritual,
like, yeah,
you're going to
also
get the
serves to
algorithm's going to
vindicate
give
it,
you.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like it also serves to vindicate it in a way. Like they make it like a little bit difficult to find, so you feel like you're in some kind of secret club, but it's not like that difficult to find. Yeah.
Exactly. I guess Elon Musk like shouted them out, the Flat Earth Society on Twitter at one point, and everybody's jaws dropped to the floor.
Society thing, yeah. Like
I think he did. Yeah. He asked, "Why is there no Flat Mars Society?" And everyone just thought it was like so epic bacon. Their jaws like literally hit the fucking floor, gaping open. It's funny. The Flat Earth Society told Elon Musk, "Thanks for the question. Unlike the Earth, Mars has been observed to be round." Okay, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Wait, so if you think the Earth is flat, you really think that orb flying up in the sky is even real?
Yeah.
You fucking kidding me?
Well, I don't know. Do they think it's a planet or a world? Like, or do they think that it is like a satellite or something? Or like
they just said it's been observed to be round.
Yeah, but that leaves open the question of like, yeah, I mean, in a way it makes sense. Like, you know, there's a flat Earth that's like the center of everything, and it's orbited by, or like, you know, there's a bunch of like orbs in the sky. There's nothing necessarily illogical about that.
I guess they're not planets. Yeah.
Yeah, like the sun. I assume that the flat Earth isn't revolving around the sun either. I assume that it's just like, you know, up there in the sky, whatever the sky is. Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't really make any sense, which is why like it's been generally like an extremely marginal view, except maybe like on a kind of intuitive level for people where like, you know, our experience of the world is like kind of that, you know, you walk straight or something, and that's
like we're too small to perceive it.
Yeah,
as
we're too.
a sphere
we don't
completely.
like see everything being like a vast curve. Although if you look out into the distance, like generally, like you do kind of see like the horizon line and how it works. Like maybe it's like that.
I feel like when you're flying really high, like 35,000 feet,
you kind of
like
do.
Can kind of
but
see
it
a
might be,
bend
you know, well,
to
you
it.
know what the flat Earth is would say that is the curvature of the plane windows. That's designed to, you know, like the plane windows are curved in a way that makes you
see. Okay,
them.
this is literally a like everybody has to be in on it kind of thing, like down to the smallest level. Which, you know, we usually like to push back against that, but I feel like this is,
there's the ice wall. The ice wall is out there.
Good point.
Okay.
Do I trust Boeing to like not put concave windows in that distort? Nah, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. We
Interesting.
don't know.
Yeah,
We
all these
don't know.
defense contractors, we're living in their world. Jesus, that's the. But you know,
Same. Well, yeah,
big,
I mean,
big if true.
Well, I think that, yeah, like, we really don't have, like, I mean, you can really, like, do simple experiments to verify it. I remember watching a documentary about flat earthers where they did, like, a simple experiment to measure, like, you know, whether there was any curvature to the Earth. And it kept coming up, like, you know, like, they bought their own equipment and everything. And, like, at the end, like, it continually, you know, came up to have the result that they were obviously hoping that it wouldn't have, or had hypothesized that it wouldn't have, which would indicate that the Earth is round. Yeah, and it was a big issue. I mean, you really can devise simple experiments to prove it, but I guess, yeah, there's a kind of like epistemic collapse in a way, and there definitely is an instinct in people which sometimes can be valuable, but sometimes can lead people astray, where like if something is a popular view or is in any way it's very interesting how these dialectical things work, because in a way, like, there's a Streisand effect where, like, the more people, like, flip out over flat Earth theory, and the more people want to stomp it out, like, that gives it more credence.
Yeah,
like,
I think that works with a lot of things, right?
With a lot of things, for sure. Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, I think, but like we said, it's useful, I think, for the powers that be to keep flat Earth out there as just like the ultimate shitcoat thing that makes everybody look dumb, and is one of many, many distractions they have.
Yes.
To kind of throw people off the course when they're like baby conspiracists, like, oh, what, like, how deep does the rabbit hole actually go? And then they just take you to like the most like bizarre fucking Nazi theory.
And then it's weird because, like, what they don't do anything about it. I mean, I guess there's maybe nothing to do about this massive, like, planet-wide conspiracy to represent the Earth as being round when it's in fact flat. Like, maybe that's kind of paralyzing to believe that.
Yeah.
But
that's useful.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, what would you do if the Earth was flat? Like, what could one do?
What should we do? You know what I mean? Like, there's a whole host of questions that haven't even been. We don't even know what to ask. Like,
I mean,
does
I
it
guess
matter if it's not
BOB had the right idea. Like, we have to go out in space and, like, verify it independently somehow.
Yeah,
like, that's what we would have to do.
The real relevant thing is we're ruled by people who are lying to us about it, which is like, and we don't know why they're lying to us about it, et cetera,
so
et
we
cetera.
need to like take them out of the equation. We need to, like, maybe it's like an anxiety, like, of our dependency on them for knowledge in a way. We want to have our own rocket to go up for ourselves. But yeah,
it's understandable to a point because everything is mediated by like the media, by the government, by corporations and everything else, and it's hard for that is a level of thing that is hard for us to. I mean, I'm sure some, like, an astronomer could probably like take a telescope and like observe something that could like demonstrate, you know what I mean? But like, for an average person, like, for your average layperson,
they don't believe that the Earth moves either, which you can definitely demonstrate just with like a pendulum, and stuff like that. Like, right? Like
the stars moving. I guess they think the stars move every night.
I guess
not the Earth spinning. Yeah, but yeah.
They think like,
don't get sucked into it, kids.
It's funny because like, they think that like if you jump up in the air, then like the Earth, like, you should like land in a different spot, and the Earth should just like zip past you because like, the Earth is spinning very quickly. But it's so like, they're like, so then why doesn't it just like, why don't we fly off and stuff? It's just like, On the other side of the coin, I do want to get some things in here about Galileo, because actually Feyerabend, who we talked about a little bit on our episode about the Copernican deception, he was like a big critic or reappraiser of Galileo. And yes, he actually said that he was like a worse scientist than Bellarmine, who is famous for our friend Adrian Vermeule, his namesake on Twitter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce his name, Bellarmine. He was saying that Bellarmine was actually a better scientist than Galileo.
Was he Arab?
No, he was like a Catholic dude. But
that's like one word, Bellarmine.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Right. So the Catholic Church, according to Feyerabend, rather than Galileo, was scientifically justified in the dispute over the placement and rotation of the sun and Earth, given available knowledge at the time. Referring to Bellarmine's letter to Foscarini, physicist Pierre Duhem suggests that, in one respect at least, Bellarmine has shown himself to be a better scientist, or philosopher of science, than Galileo by disallowing the possibility of a strict proof of the Earth's motion, on the grounds that an astronomical theory merely saves the appearances without necessarily revealing what happens. That's interesting. So Pierre Duhem said that about Bellarmine. And it definitely seems to be the case that in Feyerabend's account, this is just according to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, Feyerabend said, that Galileo, was not as scrupulous as he was sometimes represented to be. Feyerabend portrayed Galileo as making full use of rhetoric, propaganda, and various epistemological tricks in order to support the heliocentric position. The Galileo case is crucial for Feyerabend, since the scientific revolution in his paradigm of scientific progress and of radical conceptual change, and Galileo is his hero of the scientific revolution. He also sought to further downgrade the importance of empirical arguments by suggesting that aesthetic criteria, personal whims, and social factors have a far more decisive role in the history of science than rationalist or empiricist historiography would indicate. So, yeah.
Wow, shots fired.
Yeah.
Galileo.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess, he actually supports, in a way, Galileo, like, for using, like, rhetorical tricks and propaganda to support something that ended up being correct. But, yeah, another
I see,
thing...
but it wasn't just
yeah.
the data. It wasn't just the hard
No,
data
it wasn't.
that moved
Actually,
science
like,
forward.
yeah, the better scientists were the people, like, technically speaking, in terms of scientific methodology, the better scientists were the ones who were wrong. Yeah, another thing is that Pope Urban the Eighth had been a patron to Galileo, and he gave him permission to publish on the Copernican theory, as long as he treated it as a hypothesis. This is according to Wikipedia.
Whoa, what?
But after
Wait,
the publication in
hold up.
1632, the patronage broke due to Galileo placing Urban's own arguments, which sided with the scientific consensus of the time, in the mouth of a simpleton character named Simplicio.
Ooh. Damn, what? He was writing, like, satires?
Apparently he really screwed up when he wrote like this one book in defense of it, and prior to that he had been patronized by both the Jesuits and the Pope, but they got upset because he wrote this one thing that like really went in, and maybe they were like kind of manipulated to think that it was offensive. Maybe like Galileo's enemies kind of were whispering in their ears saying like, he talks shit about you in this book, see, this is about you, like he's subtweeting you, when like maybe he didn't mean it that way. But it's like kind of ambiguous. Yeah.
Interesting. And the Jesuits dropped his support as well? Stop
yes.
supporting him?
When first summoned by the Roman Inquisition in 1616, Galileo was not questioned but merely warned not to espouse heliocentrism. Also in 1616, the church banned Nicholas Copernicus' book on the revolutions of the celestial spheres, published in 1543, which contained the theory of the Earth revolved around the sun. After a few minor edits, making sure that the sun theory was presented as purely hypothetical, it was allowed again in 1620 with the blessing of the church. 16 years after his first encounter, so they were just trying to fact check. They just wanted to fact check. 16 years after his first encounter with the church, Galileo, no, the Earth does not revolve around the sun. Anyway, 16 years after his first encounter with the church, Galileo published his Dialogue on the Two World Systems in 1632, and the Pope ordered another investigation against him. And so then he was prosecuted. But that was, I guess, the text, the Dialogue on the Two World Systems, that really got him in trouble. Because apparently he like insulted the Pope, possibly by caricaturing him as Simplicio.
That's quite a roast. Damn. Yeah.
Yes.
We should come back around to Galileo one day and really figure out who he was working for.
Yeah, who was he working for? Yeah.
Who was using Galileo? It seems like there's some games. I mean, yeah, science is political, isn't it?
It certainly is, yeah.
Always. Do we want to just jump into this one to complete the trinity of mystical shit? Okay, so kind of related. Dude of Life asked, I have a goofy question. I am rather fascinated with the idea of ley lines or high energy spots or whatever one would call it. I was wondering if anyone may know some of the better resources and evidences on the subject. It seems like most of the shit I've checked out is the same regurgitated info on retarded YouTube channels with no real leads on what the fuck is actually going on. Stuff like the Arsler, stuff like the Great Pyramid intersects with stuff like Washington D.C., Stonehenge, Easter Island, the use of dowsing rods, etc. That's about as far as anyone gets into it, it seems. I must know these secrets. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure if ley lines... Is the idea of ley lines, like, actually an old idea, or is it something that was invented in the 19th century? Because that's what I, like, not really having checked prior to reading this question, that's what I kind of... is my sense, just based on my ambient background knowledge.
Yes, my like, cursory impression
places of power is definitely like the idea that there are certain places that maybe have like a certain aura or in some way.
Yes.
Like that, I guess, is a relatively old idea that certain places are significant for whatever reason, because they have unique natural features. Yeah.
Like you think about Mount Fuji.
Mountains.
There's a mountain in Liberia, I'm forgetting the name right now, that has apparently a lot of spiritual power and like spirits associated with it.
Yeah.
That a lot of people are kind of afraid to go, climb up because
mountains in general, Mount Olympus, Mount Sinai.
Mount Shasta is sus as fuck.
Yeah, Mount Shasta, Bigfoot is there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, my impression is that this idea of a ley line was like a 19th century creation, but it was trying to discover something that it thought was ancient.
Of course, yeah. As
It's
all
sort of
these things
projecting
always
backwards.
are. Yeah.
And saying all these ancient places were built according to these ley lines, which I didn't know. It says on Wikipedia, this sounds almost too wacky to be like true, that it was called ley lines because the lines that Alfred Watkins, who first popularized this, the lines that he sort of identified went through places whose names contain the syllable ley, like Ley, which just seems like that's what you're gonna hang your hat on. Like that's weird to me because it's like, okay, what? So there's a bunch of places. Maybe he was thinking in the English context where there'd be a lot of places with like, I don't know, Wembley, like some some kind of name like that.
A lot of places are named Wembley, probably around the UK. His book, The Old Straight Track. Interesting.
Yeah, so this seemed to really be popular in Britain.
Yeah,
and also among like kind of affluent, like people from affluent families. Because I noticed him and the other guy, John Mitchell, was another person who popularized this kind of stuff. He was associated with the traditionalist school of esoteric thought, which is connected, I think, to like the perennial philosophy, kind of Aldous Huxley shit. And something that the Earth Mysteries movement, I guess, is also something that's associated with ley lines. And, Stonehenge is a big deal for them. But didn't I see like a Twitter thread like not that long ago that was like Stonehenge was basically like reconstructed in like the early 1800s?
Oh, yeah. Definitely,
it's
it was.
It's not like
it was like an absolute
there.
shambles. Like before, like the way that it looks now is not like how it used to look. It like it's not like there was nothing there, but it was like a mess before they rebuilt it.
And so, whatever form it has today, people kind of look at it as like, ooh, it's so important to see like the arrangement of all these stones, but it's like. Or like, how did they get the stones up on top of the thing? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, maybe some of them were just up there, but like, if you're talking about the 19th century, there's all kinds of ways that they could. It's actually not a mystery in terms of it's not like a wonder.
Right.
I mean, people say the same about pyramids too.
That they were up there. It is based on like, they did do like research to try to determine, where they were originally. Like they
tried to reconstruct it.
Yeah, they're like exactly. It wasn't like we'll just do this willy nilly. There might be some errors. Like it might not be like exactly correct. There might be some mistakes in the way Stonehenge is arranged, but it's not like totally just like arbitrary what it looks like.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Because it is supposed to go back to like maybe as far back as 3000 BC. They claim built by the Druids and all that jazz.
Yeah.
They found fragments of human bone as early as 3000 BC. So I mean, there was something going on there. It probably was like a ritual.
Yeah,
site.
I mean, things like that are like ubiquitous. There's always like significant like stone circles are a thing in the U.S. too.
Funeral mounds.
Yeah, funeral
like that, right?
mounds. Like I mean, cemeteries like are considered to have power just by virtue of the dead being there, like tombs. Yeah, I mean that sort of transforms the landscape through human effort. So it's a bit different from the places being significant in and of themselves. But I mean, like, if there's like a river or something or any kind of like unique natural formation that tends to, draw people's attention a lot of the time. So there's tons of things like that. But the idea of like these lines, like sort of straight lines that like things line up across, maybe again, insofar as like these are based on like natural formations that, might extend across certain geographical distances, but I don't know if like I
mean, it's a tantalizing prospect because like
I mean, there's definitely
the ancient world.
I feel like Freemasons probably believe in that. Like that's like
definitely
their
true.
idea of,
I mean,
like,
when you get to
geometry,
like when you get to Washington D.C., that was built by Freemasons who were obsessed with like building like it. While not necessarily ley lines, there was a certain structure to like the whole design of the city and how tall everything was and et cetera, et cetera. And maybe they were inspired by things like ancient Egypt or Stonehenge that, they thought, I don't know, according to their occulted wisdom, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't do a lot to, unless you're thinking that there's been a group of elites like throughout history that have passed down this
Which is,
like secret
of
school.
course, always what they thought.
Some people do think this. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, they
in the
themselves,
70s, there was a book called The Sphinx and the Megaliths, which linked the Egyptian Sphinx to Stonehenge and other megalithic
Right,
structures.
yeah.
Claimed
It
they
was
were
all the
all
ancient
built
aliens, yeah.
they were all built by a group
Atlanteans.
of quote elite trained people.
Okay. I mean, they
Yeah, so,
were,
like, a
but
priest
they didn't
class.
have anything to do with each other, probably. But they probably were built by elite trained people, or like planned by elite trained people, and probably
Yeah,
built
yeah.
by not elite trained people.
But like the same people.
No, no. But otherwise, yes. Just they weren't the same.
Yeah, and I guess these people that were into the Earth Mysteries movement were also into like ufology and kind of everything we've just been talking about, and neo-paganism as well, naturally, and Wicca and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course.
I guess there was the Lay Hunters Club in like the 60s and 70s, and I don't know. Like, I mean, yeah, you do hear it pop up in like conspiracy culture sometimes, but like Dude of Life said, it's just the same regurgitated info on R-worded YouTube channels with no real leads. That's always been my impression of the talk about ley lines. Like, is there anything else?
Well, maybe it's like well, I think that a big connection could be like astrological concerns, because people often like will line up, religious sites based on astrology. So by that, you would think there actually might be some kind of geometric relationship between monuments or places of significance in different cultures, because the sort of celestial relationships are the same consistently, assuming that our Earth is in fact round. But
Of course. Yeah, I could see it within a specific culture, like within China or within ancient Egypt or something like that. That perhaps the Babylonian Empire or something like that, or the Aztecs. Like you could see like within a kind of a self-contained belief system and culture. Like different monuments being made to connect to each other, just like Washington, D.C., right? Because this was all built by the same people. But the idea that like there was a secret order of like, I don't know, druid priests or something that kind of consulted or directed the construction of everything from Stonehenge to the Sphinx to Göbekli Tepe to stuff in ancient China to like the Aztecs is kind of stretching it a little bit, unless I guess maybe what they're implying is even if these people were not connected with
they
each
weren't
other, they all had
the lines. They all were attuned to the lines, which are a natural.
That's
phenomenon.
it. The lines are just an objective fact of existence, and these old ancient priest classes had access to this knowledge, and eventually it was lost. I guess.
Yeah.
Huh.
Which I think there's probably some truth to that insofar, like I think astrology would be the main things that people would sort of align architecture with in the macro level, and maybe like to an extent within a certain geographic region there might be like, like things are built along rivers, so you might find that like rivers that go a really long way, you might find there's a certain correspondence between significant cultures or significant monuments in different sort of cultural spheres, like along like a particularly long river, maybe.
Like the Nile.
Coordinate. Yeah, I mean the Nile, obviously.
Or the Tigris and the Euphrates. Yeah. Or
I mean
the Indus. Like, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Rivers are a very big deal.
Feng Shui is something also that comes to mind, right? Like,
I
feel like there's probably Feng Shui practiced on like I don't really know too much about Feng Shui historically, but probably on a macro level, you always think of Feng Shui as being like arranging your furniture in your house or something.
Yeah.
But probably, like historically speaking, it was more common on a macro level, where
like an urban planning strategy.
Yeah, exactly. Which
Which
like
honestly,
having,
there's something to it.
For sure, yeah. Like at a basic level, like you want like urban planning is like an art that you need to like make sure that things are like not only like aesthetically balanced, but like practically balanced, like according to what's optimal. Like, and there's many factors. So I think that the ley lines kind of do sort of emerge like from those considerations. I think that's kind of probably what like the people who observed the ley lines, if they were like, oh, look, if you walk along a straight line, like all these significant things are here or something like that. If you walk around this route, which of course like no line is truly straight on it, like on a globular Earth. So again, assuming
Watch
the Earth,
out.
yeah,
You're just you're being captured by the
yeah,
by the on top.
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
But I guess there would be straight lines if the Earth was
direction.
flat. Yeah.
Yeah, there would
Yeah,
be
Feng
perfectly
Shui
straight lines.
Feng Shui is about as old as Stonehenge, about 3,500 years old.
Well, I mean,
And
it
it
is
was-
a pretty basic
yeah.
concept, It's almost just like reflexive that you want to like put things like in a centrally located location. Like, there is a sort of aesthetic sensibility that's natural that enjoys like symmetry, maybe.
Yeah. They
and
a
also-
lot of the reason for it was because it was invented before the invention of the magnetic compass. So they would use it to basically develop like instruments to judge like directions and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, so they would use circumpolar stars to determine the north-south axis of different settlements. So I guess it was almost a way of like navigation, which I guess is also overlaps with astrology in general, right? Mm-hmm. And actually, wow, the magnetic compass was invented for Feng Shui and has been in use since its invention. So we have Feng Shui to thank, I guess, for the magnetic compass.
I
That's
wonder
great.
if
That's
like
kinda
the
crazy.
magnetic compass was like invented in a bunch of different places, though. I mean, it's not.
It says it was invented as a device for divination as early as the Chinese Han Dynasty, circa 206 BC, and then later adopted for navigation by the Song Dynasty, Chinese during the 11th century, and the first usage of a compass in Western Europe and the Islamic world occurred around 1190.
That makes sense, yeah.
Wow. That's crazy, though, that it was around for like 1,000 years before huge chunks of the world started using it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the 4 great inventions of China: the compass, gunpowder, paper making, and printing. Wow.
But the PRC has labeled feng shui as superstitious,
What?
according to Wikipedia.
Wow.
But I mean, yeah, like before that, definitely like the ancient Egyptians would use like gnomons or noma, or like sort of sundials to calculate things, and obviously they would use astrology, and I guess the Chinese would do that as well.
How do the flat Earth people deal with like magnets and like compasses?
I don't know, man.
I don't even want to know. I can only imagine.
Well, I mean, north and south and east and west would still exist, right? They would just be like absolute directions.
Yeah, they wouldn't really be like north. They wouldn't be like up or like down. They would
north
be, like,
would just
forward,
straight up
backwards.
be up in that. Like north is
I guess
not
you're
up.
right.
North is just
Weird.
north, and
I guess you're right.
on the globular
That's true.
Earth, but on
Yeah.
the flat Earth, north really would be up.
You're right. Oh my
I
god.
guess.
That's making.
Well, it really depends. Like, where is the flat Earth? Like,
Yeah.
where is it located? Like, is it in a larger?
Are we in a
space?
universe? Like, what?
Or
We
are
don't know
just,
anything.
Like, is everything just really
except for-
small and like I don't know.
Anyway, yeah. So I don't know.
You'd have a flat earther on to have them explain.
What about dowsing rods?
Dowsing rods.
Well, yeah.
Oh, those like people use them to like find ley lines. I guess that's probably why you're bringing them up.
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Well, the Dude of
the
Life asked
Dude
about
of
them.
Life mentioned them.
Mentioned them.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I know people use dowsing rods to like find water and to find like maybe gold or other valuable minerals. There might be something to that. I don't know. Like, and people definitely use dowsing rods to find ghosts as well. They're like one of the most bare bones ghost hunting tools you can get. You can just use clothes hangers as dowsing rods if you want. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
that's right.
like. I don't know what principle dowsing rods are supposed to work on. I definitely have heard of like people being able to like find water in a way that seems almost like preternatural, but
Yeah, it's very unclear exactly. A lot of it is explained away similar to like a Ouija board, where it's like micro, unconscious micro movements or whatever. Basically, move the rod, and I guess that's the kind of divination kind of mechanism of it, is that it like wiggles.
right, yeah, or they cross. Like you hold them apart and then they cross in your hands when you're like in a relevant place, depending on what you're looking for. Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
Damn, in the
there's
late
so
20th
many
and
of them.
early 21st century, according to Wikipedia, a number of dowsing-like devices were marketed for the modern police and military use, primarily as explosive detectors. Wow.
But it said that It said that most of those were fraudulent. And
Yes, exactly. In consequence of these
yeah.
frauds, in 1999, the U.S. National Institute of Justice issued advice against buying equipment based on dowsing. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
It shows a picture of skeptic James Randi at a lecture at Rockefeller University in 2008 holding an $800 device advertised as a dowsing instrument. Okay, Rockefeller University, you're really going to be out here like platforming debunkers when like Lawrence Rockefeller is like funding the entire UFO movement. I see you. I see y'all out here.
This is the MIT article.
They don't want anybody finding the
swears-
oil. That's why.
This is actually about primitive Muslims, and their belief in dowsing. Iraq swears by bomb detector U.S. sees as useless. Despite major bombings that have rattled the nation and fears of rising violence as American troops withdraw, this is from 2009, Iraq security forces have been relying on a device to detect bombs and weapons the United States military and technical experts say is useless. The small handheld wand with a telescopic antenna on a swivel is being used at hundreds of checkpoints in Iraq. But the device works on the same principle as a Ouija board, the power of suggestion, said a retired Air Force officer, Lieutenant Colonel Hal Bidlack, who described the wand as nothing more than an explosive divining rod. Still, the Iraqi government has purchased more than 1,500 of the devices known as the ADE-651 at cost from 16th... well, this is kind of stupid, I guess, if they paid that much money for it.
That is wow. $60,000 each.
Yeah, woof.
The inventor was sentenced to 10 years in prison for fraud in 2013, James McCormick.
Oof.
Wow, it sold them to all kinds of... That's so fucked up to like sell like some defense contractor
They put
in
their
Britain
faith
selling
in magic
fake
wand.
bombs.
They should have, they should have learned, that's shirk. They shouldn't have done it.
Wow, they came up with all kinds of gobbledygook to explain like why it works. That sounds like very professional, like very serious.
That's funny. It's bizarre that people would do that. Like, sell people like non-functional like bomb detection devices. Like,
I almost feel like
you have
this
to
is
be a
on
complete
purpose. Like the
sociopath.
U.S.
Yeah, probably
either
was.
psyoped or strong armed the Iraqi government into buying like
Probably,
a billion
yeah.
of these so that they wouldn't detect any bombs and like the Civil War could
and
get
then we're
worse.
like debunk. And then to be like these dumbasses like buying the thing that like our defense companies sold them.
Yeah, I mean, listen to
us,
this. Yeah, listen to this. The
how stupid they are.
The ADE-651 was widely used by the Iraqi police service and the Iraqi army. The Iraqi Interior Ministry bought 800 of the devices in 2008 for £20 million and a further 700 in 2009 for £32 million in no-bid contracts with ATSC. The Iraqi government paid up to £37,000 for the devices, despite the purchase price being put around £11,000. The Iraqi Army's Baghdad Operations Command announced in November 2009 it had purchased another 100 of the devices. What the hell? And
Wow, it was a British company that did this, I guess.
it's a British company, and like Iraqi Interior Minister Jawad al-Balani like publicly defended the use of the ADE.
Wow.
There's a picture of him like defending them buying hundreds of these.
Wow.
Here's what he said. Oh, I'm sorry, this is a different guy. Major General Jihad al-Jabiri of the Interior Ministry's General Directorate for Combating Explosives defended the device, quote, "Whether it's magic or scientific, what I care about is detecting bombs. I don't care what they say. I know more about bombs than the Americans do. In fact, I know more about bombs than anyone in the world." He told a press conference the ADE-651 has detected hundreds of roadside bombs and car bombs, and any deficiencies were due to defective training in the device's use. And then the Iraqi Interior Minister, al-Balani, told Al Arakia Television that the ADE, quote, had managed to prevent and detect more than 16,000 bombs that would be a threat to people's life, and more than 733 car bombs were defused. Iraq is considered as a market area for many companies providing such services, and there are other rival companies trying to belittle the efficiency of the instruments the government is buying. What the... They sold them to Mexico... They sold them to the Lebanese army, the Chinese police, the Royal Thai police, and the Interior Ministry of the Kurdistan Regional Government in Iraqi Kurdistan. Wow. Based.
Wow.
So, like, what? I feel like there's something deeper and weirder to, like, this fucking story.
This
Like,
is,
why are all these politicians, like, upset buying ley line detectors to, like, and saying they stop bombs when apparently they don't?
Well, like, it's kind of like, if you look at it, it's kind of like, it looks like there's some kind of, like, there could be some kind of tech in there, you know, like, or something. You know, people don't really know, like, phones kind of look like that or something, you know, like, no one really knows, like, people don't usually open up their phones. You know, they might think there's some kind of, like, highly attuned metals or something in the machine, like, you know, so, like, it's not, like, if you're sold something, like, it's a confidence trick, basically. It works on a lot of people. Like, this is a crazy little anecdote. A whistleblower who worked to sell the device around the world with McCormick, who I guess was the inventor, told the BBC that he once challenged McCormick over the device's effectiveness. McCormick was said to have answered the device did exactly what it was meant to do. It makes money. No.
No. This guy is like this is
evil.
like boy boss Elizabeth Holmes right here with like Theranos, you know, like actually working for the Pentagon on some shady bullshit, but has a wonder device that doesn't actually work. This is so, like, how many people probably died because like the Iraqi government was using this?
I don't know.
I guess it doesn't matter because it did what it was supposed to do. It made money.
Yeah.
I feel like this is on purpose. They wanted more bombs to go off to like cripple Iraq. That was also right after America left. They're like, hey, we know this really great defense contractor in Britain. Like, you guys should totally buy all your scanning devices from them when we leave so you don't get blown up every 5 seconds. And then, boom.
This is truly amazing. Hassan Muhammad, an Iraqi police officer and user of the ADE 651, described the proper use of the device as more of an art than a science. If we are tense, the device doesn't work correctly. I start slow and relax my body and try to clear my mind. Well, you know, I wonder if, like, you're actually, like, you know, being attentive and, like, meditating, like, a dowsing rod could help you find. Probably it can. Like, you know, you're kind of,
like,
attuning
a vibes
yourself.
Detector?
Exactly, yeah. Like, you're basically using, like, your intuition to, you know, find these things. Like,
when somebody drives up to a checkpoint,
it's the placebo effect, basically. Like, you think you have this kind of, like, advanced device, so, or, like, you're using it as, like, you're basically using it as a magic wand in a way. Like, it is a magic wand. You're using it to channel, like, you know, your own intuition, your own supersensory perception. So maybe that guy had a point. Maybe it did kind of work. But probably like a clothes hanger that is like 50 cents would work just as well.
Yeah, at this point, you don't need to charge people 20,000 pounds for each one.
And it probably doesn't work as well as like something that actually detects bombs.
Probably not. I think safe to say.
Yeah.
It's notable that Israel bought some and then kicked it out of the country. And we're like, no. Like, because, you know, they detect their bombs very professionally.
Right.
So,
yes, exactly.
yeah, you know, they always had that mirror thing.
They weren't like,
car,
oh, it's saying you have a bomb. Like, better fucking pull your head off. Like,
that is kind of surprising, actually.
The cards were, but anyway, the cards were supposedly programmed or activated by being placed in a jar for a week, along with a sample of the target substance to absorb the substance's quote unquote vapors. So McCormick would use his own blood to program the cards for detecting human tissues, but eventually gave up even the pretense of programming them when demand for the devices was at its peak. So this guy was like doing like blood magic to like encode these dowsing rods.
Oh my God.
What?
Wow. So I didn't know the ley lines were going to take us there exactly, but
yeah, pretty interesting.
There you go. I mean, not unserious. Apparently, millions of dollars have been spent.
Yeah. Well, you know, it just shows like in a panic, like after 9/11, you know, all the kind of crazy stuff that can be laundered onto people.
This is literally like security theater.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, probably, like, to be honest, like, this is almost like the Bernie Madoff of security theater. It's kind of like the scapegoat when there's, like, probably tons of stuff just like this that we go about our lives tolerating, which is just as fraudulent.
Oh, absolutely. I can only imagine the kinds of things that, like, don't even fucking work that make, like, hundreds of millions of dollars on, like, Pentagon contracts.
Yeah. Probably the reason why people noticed this was because, like, it could be used to, like, say, like, oh, look how dumb these people, like, outside of the United States are. Whereas, like, definitely. You know,
and also debunk the paranormal, because when they found out it was like basically a dowsing rod, it's like time for fact check. Like, basically, he fucked up in that way. He should have come up with a different fake. So
dowsing rods work, but you know, this was
they work at making money in like a really
they work at making money.
Way.
Yeah, wow, it's true. He was able to use the dowsing rods to find treasure. Just in a very
to find oil.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, that's why the Rockefeller University had to shut it down, because they want to keep the secrets of all that oil. They don't want people running around psyoping themselves into finding oil or whatever the fuck, however the fuck it works.
Yeah, you ain't seen my best. Checkmate in a game of chess. Globalists see me as a threat. Free thinking, got the world at my neck, huh? Am I paranoid? Picture Malcolm X in a room full of pigs trying not to bust a sweat. Ayy, Neil Tyson need to loosen up his vest. They probably write that man one hell of a check. Ayy, I'm over here on this side of town. Come on over here, try to clown. Ayy, I never pipe down. If they weren't coming for me, then they definitely coming for me now. I can't even keep my phone charged up. All the shit I'm talking, I should get my own barred up. Rappers, get off of my dick and get your own bars up. Vladimir and Liz's breath got the clone skirt, cuz whoop. Use your common sense. Why is NASA part Department of Defense? They divided up the seas into 33 degrees, feeding kids masonry. Bro, be careful what you read. Flatline. There's no superior bloodline. Flatline. You got me once, but that died. Ayy, voice. Do I have a voice? Do I give a fuck? Do I have a choice? Joint. I roll up a joint. Keep my shooters in the game like I hate to disappoint. I see only good things on the horizon. That's probably why the horizon is always rising. Indoctrinated in a cult called science, and graduated to a club full of liars. Heliocentrism, you were the sixth victim. Fuck you and your team, you can sit on the bench with them, they nervous. But before you try to curve it, do your research on David Irving. Stalin was way worse than Hitler. That's why the POTUS gotta wear a kipper. I'm a man first for an artist. Get a lawyer, look up Dr. Richard Sauter. Fans. Flatline. You fooled us for the last time. Flatline. Is no superior bloodline there.
So you want to find the farthest point from that center. And it turns out sea level at the equator is farther away from the center of the Earth than sea level near the poles. It has nothing to do with global warming and melting of the ice caps.
Why is that?
Because Earth, we know it spins once a day. Yes, thank you. 3 people know how long a day lasts here.
Good for row number 2. They're off to a great start.
So you spin, when you spin pizza dough, it kind of flattens out. Yeah. Gets wider in the middle. So Earth, throughout its life, even when it formed, it was spinning. And it got a little wider at the equator than it does at the poles. So it's not actually a sphere. It's oblate. And officially it's an oblate spheroid. That's what we call it. But not only that, it's slightly wider below the equator than above the equator.
A little chubbier.
Yeah. Chubby's a good word. It's like pear-shaped. Yeah. So it turns out the pear-shapedness is bigger than the height of Mount Everest above sea level.
Flatline. You fooled us for the last time. Flatline. Is no superior bloodline there.
Do you want to read question number 4?
Yeah, let's do it.
Still slightly connected, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Can
No
you guys talk about the Kyle Odom case from 2016 and his manifesto about Martians? Yeah, I remember this. I remember hearing about it on some paranormal type podcasts too. Yeah.
The name rings a bell, but I always get it mixed up with Lamar Odom. But who I think didn't he also say
Lamar
something?
Odom is.
Maybe I'm getting
he's a
him mixed up
player.
with Kyrie Irving, who talked about flat Earth, but yeah.
He was on Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
He was married to one of the Kardashians, and I think he had, I think he had an overdose at a brothel in Nevada. He was one of those guys who he seemed to get the Kardashian curse,
But yeah, but we didn't actually confuse these two people. It would be funny if we did, and we just started talking about Lamar Odom this whole time. It's
no,
no.
Kyle
he was
Odom.
very specific. It's about Kyle Odom and his manifesto about Martians, which you can find online. If you search Kyle Odom, you can read the whole manifesto, which is pretty interesting. It has some choice quotes. So basically what this guy did was he shot a pastor, a pretty prominent pastor in where was he? He was in Idaho?
Idaho. I think it was in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Yeah, he was a pretty prominent. Like he had done an invocation for Ted Cruz like that day.
Or yeah, the day before or something like that.
The day
Yeah.
before he was shot by Kyle Odom 6 times in the back and in the head.
Did he survive?
Yes, he survived, and he's like, better than you would think. Almost
And then-
suspiciously. No, but
Well, then didn't he also then drive to Washington D.C. and then
yes,
do
and
something?
he threw some suspicious objects over the fence at the White House before being detained by the Secret Service, and then he was sent back to Idaho to face justice for what he did there.
Yes.
But no one really ever said what the objects were. Well, he wrote, his manifesto basically is about how he's been for years like stalked by hypersexual Martians.
Yeah.
Who they're like obsessed with like tormenting him like psychologically and also like sexually all the time and like treating him kind of as a sex slave. He has a bullet point list that might be good for sort of the truncated podcast format, just to give the rundown of he actually gives a list. Why did he do it? And he says, my life was ruined by an intelligent species of amphibian humanoid from Mars. I wish I was joking. Keep reading. Bullet point 1. They were here long before we ever existed. Bullet point 2. Their technology is millions of years more advanced than ours. I've seen them do things that defy all comprehension. Bullet point 3. They have a massive breeding stock of humans, which they breed and control from birth. They use these quote unquote humans to live vicarious lives among us. They appear to be completely normal because they're good at imitating human behavior. See Martian technology for explanation on this. This is another section. The actual Martians live deep underground here and inside of the moon. They take control of wild human beings and use them as sex slaves. Don't believe me? Ask President Obama to take a lie detector test on this one. That jumped out to me. I guess maybe he's just using an idiom or a turn of phrase. I feel like they could probably beat the lie detector, but anyway, they tried to talk about something that's like borderline fraud. But anyway, they tried to take me, but they were unable to control my mind. They've been following me ever since. I tried everything to get my life back. I begged, bargained, and I threatened. Everything I tried to do was sabotaged. I attempted suicide twice, but they stopped me both times. My last resort was to take actions that would bring this to the public's attention. So yeah, basically he was convinced that this guy who he shot, Ted Remington, I want to say, Ted, Remington was like a Martian, was one of the Martians. And
he was one of the Martians, and
he tells
live
a bunch
underground, and also it's very They Live, like they
it's pretty
they
They Live, yeah.
Or
Right.
it's unclear if they shapeshift or also they breed humans to be kind of their servants on.
He
above
explains
ground.
it at a certain point. He says that, let me see if I can find it. Humans are nothing more than a result of a genetic experiment. You are a threat to the way these people think, and you can no longer be free in society. These are some of the messages he got from the Martians. Your life is over. You are nothing but a toy. Your only purpose is to suck.
Yeah, they molested him a lot, apparently.
Yeah, they wanted him as a sex slave.
Literally, that's what they said. Quote, we want you to be a sex slave. We want you as our sex slave. He describes like, I guess, he went to
these
college.
Aliens like are just they're inexhaustible. Like they really are horny. Like they need constant sex. And he says the females would just like stimulate him while the males would do something else. The females stimulate, he actually redacted it when they are close, and the males stimulate, redacted. It's incredibly exhausting. And they can manipulate his heart rate and flood his body with adrenaline. So basically they can keep him going. So he graduated from the University of Idaho, and then he got an offer to enter a PhD program in human genetics at the Baylor College of Medicine. So kind of like a James Holmes. Well, he also was an ex-Marine, right?
And he was an ex-Marine.
In the military. Yeah.
Yes, he was.
So that's a bit of a red flag.
That's a flag right there. How many mass shooters who were ex-military said they had voices in their head telling them like,
well, the
to grab
other
their
thing
elf
that
weapon and go.
The thing that I think really drove him nuts was that he, for whatever, so he obviously was having like these sort of experiences or like visions, but like before this happened, but what I think really kind of set him down the path to what he eventually did was that he said that he applied to several government agencies before this happened. So and he was on a plane.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, like he kept looking back at an older gentleman in front of him, and or an older gentleman in front of him kept looking back, and his head began to hurt and tingle. And the moment my head began to hurt, his lips curled into this evil-looking smile. The pain and tingling in my head continued for the rest of the flight and got more intense as time went on. Every time I felt it, the man would start taking notes in a notepad. About halfway through the flight, someone in front of me held up a newspaper that said psychic reading for like 5 minutes straight. It was blatantly obvious they were doing something to me, but I didn't know what. Once we landed, the older gentleman kept showing me his track phone as if to say, get one of these. It's like a burner phone kind of.
Yeah, it's a
so
burner.
like, yeah. So what's weird is he thought, like, because he had applied to work for government agencies, he thought that they were like trying to contact him and tell him to get a track phone. So he got one and he just waited. And then someone did call the phone that he bought, which is like that is something that would, I think if you're already kind of prone to being paranoid or thinking that someone's watching you,
Yeah.
like the fact that you would get a text on the burner phone you got where you didn't give anybody the number, like that would be odd. But it turned out to be, the non-Martian explanation is that somehow he ended up on an email list from like basically this guy who worked at a church, John Padula, the same, I guess he was connected with Tim Remington, the same church, right?
Yeah.
Called The Altar, which is a bit of a weird name for a
Quite
church.
a name. Yeah, quite a name.
Churches do have altars, but
I know the Protestant churches get like very kind of hip and fancy with like their name. It's like, like the Flock or something would be like a church in like LA.
I guess it's
So,
really called is it really called Altar Church? No, it's called The Altar.
The
All right.
Altar. John
All right.
Padula, The Altar.
Doesn't help. Not to victim blame them for getting, shot by this guy, but that probably didn't help matters in Kyle Odom's mind, whatever was going on.
And this is in Coeur d'Alene, the Altar Church. And,
do you remember the song? This is one of my favorite parts of the manifesto where he says, after making the appointment to meet John, something very bizarre happened. I received the most unnatural blank I have ever had. It felt like someone was manually pumping blood into my redacted, but we know what it is, a certain organ. I don't know how else to describe it. Immediately after that, a song began playing in my mind. The lyrics went, "Sister, sister, he's just a plaything. We want to make him stay up all night." I'd never heard the song before, and I had no idea what it meant. I tried to ignore it and kept searching for jobs. A few minutes later, the song kept playing. Nothing else happened until I had to go sleep that night. As soon as I got into bed, the song started again. "Sister, sister, he's just a plaything. We want to make him stay up all night." So
this gets darker because then he couldn't sleep all night, and like every time he tried to sleep, the song would play. But then in the morning, he thought it was over until a voice entered his head, and the voice said, quote, "You're going to be uncomfortable. All you have to do is breathe." I sat there wondering what this meant until the voice spoke again. It told me I was going to, quote, "be sacrificed like Jesus and get beheaded." Ugh, this threw me into a complete panic. My heart began racing, and I started to have a mental breakdown. A few minutes later, some man knocked on my door. I answered, and he gave me a pamphlet talking about the sacrifice of Jesus. My mind started racing out of control, and I became completely delirious. I thought for sure I was going to die. Wow. So he thought about his family, and all he could think about was seeing them again. They were in Albuquerque, so he decided to buy a one-way ticket there. This is also sketchy again. This is very like sus, like Scanners, the Fury shit. When he got to the Spokane airport, his panic subsided. Everything was fine until I got on the plane to Albuquerque. I sat next to this huge man who kept telling me telepathically that he was going to crash the plane. Every time after he spoke, he would sniff emphatically. I didn't know what to do, so I just sat there trying to stay as calm as possible. He puts in quotes, "man," became angry about this and started touching my leg. The second he touched me, I could feel him inside my mind. This caused me to panic until I was on the verge of causing a scene. Before I did anything, he told me to calm down and said, "You did a great job. You passed. Go enjoy your family. We have a job waiting for you when you get back." I thanked him and felt slightly relieved, but I had no intention of contacting him at all. Wow. So he keeps getting followed, I guess, after he gets to Albuquerque. And everyone's sniffing like as they follow him. That seems to be what he notices. He thinks it has something to do with dominance.
Yeah.
Like a dog or something.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, I mean, you know, he even acknowledges that he is like the Martians are causing him to have hallucinations and to see things that aren't there, which is, you know, so it's not, you know, he's making it like, you know, he thinks the Martians are in fact there, you know, so this is
they're
like kind of
psyoping him.
Yeah, but they're making him experience like schizophrenic type, you know, symptoms.
Yeah. I mean, this is very creepy, like gang stalking, like targeted
It is very
individual
classic
type.
gang stalking. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you don't usually see this Martian twist on it. Occasionally, it's sometimes you see reptoids or something.
Aliens, yeah. Martians less so, but I mean, you know,
his description of the church is creepy too. When he got telepathic messages by them saying like, "Go to church if you want us to leave you alone." So he decided to go to the altar, and when he went for the first time, the people acted very strange. It was inhuman. As I walked into the sermon room, everyone stared at me and began sniffing emphatically. Needless to say, I was scared as hell, but I took a seat. When the service began, a man came and sat down next to me. After he sat down, I began smelling something. It was a smell I had never smelt before. The only thing I can compare it to is a reptile in vinegar. Ugh. After smelling it, I became very uncomfortable. I tried to remain calm and just sat there quietly until the service was over. When it ended, they said, "You can leave now." After that, I knew I wasn't dealing with the government anymore. I realized that whoever I was dealing with was extraterrestrial, so I became very scared. Jeez.
Yeah, and then after that, he would, you know, he would be tormented by these aliens and would be hearing their voices all the time, you know, telling him that he's a sex slave, his purpose is to suck. And then, you know, I guess he had a suicide attempt, but he felt that it was prevented by the Martians. And that was when he encountered Tim Remington face to face in connection with this church. And he was telling me that I should consider becoming a minister. We were in mid-conversation when he suddenly revealed himself to me. I have no clue how he did it, but it looked as if his human face became his real face. It happened for only 1 to 2 seconds, but I was able to draw a sketch of what I saw. And yeah, he included the sketch of the manifesto. His eyes really stood out, so they captured my attention. They were huge and bulging, the eyelids were darker green, and the irises were yellow-brown with slit pupils. After witnessing this, nothing else happened. I continued attending the altar for a few more services, waiting for them to do something. They did nothing except for tell me to submit and surrender. I had no clue what they meant, so I left the church and never went back.
Yeah. The picture of Remington unmasked is really something.
Yes, he has like kind of he kind of looks like one of those dinosaurs that like the horn dinosaurs.
Like the herbivore dinosaurs with like the spiky tail kind of thing.
And like in Jurassic Park, yeah. Oh yeah, he
like
kind of looks like a Stegosaurus.
Kind of like a Pokemon or something.
He looks a little bit like he could be a Pokemon.
But he's not quite Reptoid. He's not really a gray.
Yeah, you can look it up for yourself. He gives some descriptions of them. Huge eyes that stuck out of the sockets, yellow-brown iris, projecting muzzle with 45-degree angled nostrils, huge mouth, dark green skin. Oh yeah, and they kind of look like a Muppet, according to him. And they would say like Elmo rules the world, and they kept saying that to him because like they were taunting him with their Muppet appearance.
Oh my God, are Muppets
Thankfully,
in on this whole thing?
I have a photographic memory, so I was able to remember what I saw. Although I remember the general appearance because each time I saw them, it was very brief. They would smile at me in stores and reveal their mouth, eyes, nose, all separately, never together at the same time. No. So yeah, I forget why. I remember like the gist of it, but I'm not sure. I forget where it is in the manifesto that he explains like how the Martians do. But I feel like they basically
he does
like
kind of Q&A.
Hollow out the people and like they possess them kind of. Like the people are, you know, like they were human, but now they're
yeah, he draws a distinction between wild humans that are normal people like you and I, and then people like Tim and John, whose minds were controlled from birth by Martians.
Right.
They were grown in like the cloning center, basically, the underground cloning center. Yeah, and he has this like Q&A you probably appreciate. Why would aliens hide in a church? Same reason terrorists hide in mosques.
Right. Yeah, that did jump out at me. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. I mean, once a Marine, always at Semper Fi.
Yeah, exactly. True. Semper Fi. Right.
Yeah. Huh. So.
Yeah, it's almost like his programming to like destroy everyone in a mosque, like malfunctions.
Exactly. Searching for a new target. Like Amy the robot on Red Planet.
And the
coincidentally
Martians
enough.
do have kind of like that little headwear, the kind of almost kind of like turban like or fez like perhaps.
Interesting. As her wires getting crossed here.
Yeah.
He says they have a breeding stock of remote control humans. Physically, their humans are no different than us. They just lack a mind of their own. So basically, I mean, they're NPCs, like controlled by Martians.
So, but Tim and John are Martians.
They're like clone babies that were raised from Earth to be just vessels for the entity. They're entity possessed humans, basically, that are controlled. They're just puppets of the Martians. They're Muppets, basically, but they're not.
Wow,
Martians
they are
themselves.
Muppets.
Yeah, they're not.
But how come his face transformed into a face of a Martian?
That's a good point. But I guess he says their technology is millions of years ahead of ours. So like that kind of explains the strange things he saw that he can't really describe. He thinks
they have like an astral body that's like inhabiting the skin suit of the human, and that's what he saw.
Yeah, maybe. He says that he's seen them make things appear out of nowhere. One time he was sitting on a couch and a dollar bill appeared on his lap. They use random unsuspecting items so no one would think anything of it. And he said, I'm pretty sure they can pop in and out of this dimension based on other things I've seen. I'm also pretty sure they can overlap our reality with an alternate dimension. Interesting. I say this because I've gone into stores where I know the employees, and suddenly there are all new employees who I've never seen before. Wow. That's bizarre. But he also does
kind
mention,
of like an Andrew Getty Evil Within type of
where's
my waiter? Yeah, exactly.
I don't think we mentioned it though, that like after he was in the Marines, but before he went to college and started getting opened up to these influences, he got really into meditation. And that he claims that's why he has such like advanced kind of like psychic abilities.
And he started to have like profound thoughts about genetics that were like beyond what normal people could know. And that's why the Martians were interested in him. Partially.
He says that if certain ways of thinking are allowed to exist, revolutions will take place. They could not afford for us to have a revolution in genetics. If we did, we could eliminate diseases, cancers, and many other things that plague us.
They need
us to remain ignorant and continue struggling. Otherwise, we will become a threat to them. So they want to keep us sick and, Wow. I like his note to Barack Obama.
It's amazing. I was just going to say we should read that too. Yeah.
It says at the top in parentheses, this will not make sense unless you were the president or one of his close friends. If this doesn't pertain to you, please ignore it. Well, I'm not going to ignore it.
Exactly. Yeah.
He puts it in like a bullet point, kind of just a list of bullet points. Mr. President, I want to thank you for your sacrifice to this country. It's very upsetting to hear you talk about the things they do to you. Why do you let them? I suppose you have no other choice. I've been struggling with them myself for over a year now. I had nothing to lose, so I chose this instead. I could never tolerate that much abuse. I hope you don't take any of their threats too seriously. Everything is a game to them. Realize they consider the entire human race a plaything, including you. They brag to me about what they do to you. Lots of ... I'm sure you already know. But he doesn't love you. Their brains don't even work that way. I don't know you personally, but they've shown me a lot about you. You're an amazing person. I hope you stop letting them humiliate you. Why be afraid to retaliate? Kennedy wasn't. Well, I mean... That he died. It's time someone took a stand to end this nonsense. Can you think of a better legacy than that? What's worse, having everyone know the reality of the situation, or watching some of our best and brightest become slaves? I wish you the very best for the remainder of your presidency. If you're still in there, stay strong. If you're
and then he has a YouTube video, which I wish I knew what it was, but
is it taken down now?
Of course it was taken down.
Oh yeah. Wow. If you're still in there, so I guess he's heard that Barack Obama might have been possessed by. Anyways, and he talks about Martian brain and behavior. They're hypersexual, hyper-aggressive, fearful, and paranoid. I guess they have an enlarged amygdala, very much like reptoids, basically.
Yes, they are very much like. But it's interesting they have a large amygdala, because isn't that the seat of emotion, kind of, or like something like that?
I always thought the amygdala was like the reptile brain, or maybe I'm thinking of a different.
Oh, maybe it's like maybe they call it the reptilian brain because it's like the emotional response and not the logical response. Because I thought amygdala was like, what makes you afraid, right? Things like that.
I think it's like the core thing of like fear response, like core impulses.
Core fear system in the human body. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So they think.
Yeah. Why would reptiles have an enlarged amygdala? They're not afraid of anything.
That's why they're hypersexual, hyper aggressive, hyper fearful, and paranoid. Like that's why. Yeah. So they're just like.
Okay. So I found out what the video that Kyle Odom attached apparently was. It was Need to Breathe, Brother, Feet, Gavin DeGraw. It's like a country music video.
Huh.
I'm looking up the lyrics right now rather than watching the entire thing. Need to Breathe is the name of the song. Brother is the artist, and Gavin DeGraw is featured. Ramblers in the wilderness. We can't find what we need. We get a little restless from the searching. Get a little worn down in between, like a bull chasing the matador. Is the man left to his own schemes? Everybody needs someone beside him, shining like a lighthouse from the sea. Brother, let me be your shelter. I'll never leave you alone. I can be the one you call when you're low. Wow, this is the message that he wanted Obama to hear. Wow. Brother, let me be your shelter. Wow. He was trying to support him because he knows he was tormented by the Martians as well.
Wow. I like the drawing of the teeth. It just looks it does look like a kind of Muppet or like a duck.
Yeah, they're like
or
very spaced out. Yeah.
Very okay. Noteworthy Martians. He has a list here of political leaders and stuff.
Nancy Pelosi,
naturally. Liz Warren, hilariously.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she did that DNA test, and that's what they found. She was like 1% Native American, 99%.
Yeah, that was the misdirection.
Yeah. Mitch McConnell.
Mostly
Mitch McConnell looks already like one of these things.
True. He looks like a turtle. So, yeah.
And they
Tim
look
Scott,
a lot like turtles.
Dick Durbin, Patty Murray. A lot of just like, I guess all the centrist senators are kind of, a lot of Congress.
Yeah, not too many senators, but a lot of people in the House of Representatives. But, the big Martian hub is Israel.
Naturally. Yeah.
Every prime minister since 1948. Yeah, there are many others from Israel. Too many to list. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess they're not all elite. Like some of them work blue collar jobs. They could just be normal people, but they also are.
They control our government, our military, and corporate America as well. They keep track of every wild human on the planet and manage us like animals in a zoo. Our freedom is a carefully crafted illusion. Wow. Martians are ubiquitous. Dear God.
Damn.
But something that I found to be interesting in this whole manifesto was this part, like where he talks about the Martian brain and behavior. As you said, they're hypersexual, they're hyper aggressive, and they're fearful and paranoid. The Martians must have an analogous amygdala, and it must be greatly enlarged. The morphology of their brain is also markedly different from ours. I know because I've seen what the amphibian humanoids look like. The males are extremely aggressive. In their society, there is only one thing, and that is power. Whoever is the smartest, biggest, and strongest wins. One time I was talking to a young male who kept trying to intimidate/scare me. He saw that I was still confident in myself and immediately became discouraged. He stopped what he was doing and said, "You think you're better than me," then hung his head and walked away. I told him that wasn't true, but he wouldn't listen. After this, every time I encountered one of the males in public, they would attack me mentally until they destroyed my self-esteem. They did this because they are scared to death of my intelligence. The only way they have the confidence to talk with me is if I'm scared for my life or completely despondent. To the males, everything is black or white. There is no middle ground. They are power-hungry megalomaniacs obsessed with control. If they are not 100% in control of every situation, they panic. If something happens they aren't anticipating, they get very upset. They hate surprises. I know this because I was smart enough to trick them a few times. And then he says, this is kind of the key part to me. To recap, the males are megalomaniacal, obsessed with sex, extremely aggressive, fearful and paranoid, power hungry, obsessed with control. And so then he says, sound familiar? And I'm like, yeah, human beings, like human males. But like the way he goes with it is like, who else do you know who has these characteristics? And he says, if you answered God from the Bible, you are correct. Martians are responsible for the God myth. Martians may have created humans as they claim, but they are certainly not gods themselves. They are just another intelligent species that evolved on a neighboring planet. There is no God. There is no heaven. There is no hell. Earth is as close to heaven as we'll ever get, and we are letting the Martians ruin it. They are going to destroy Earth just like they destroyed Mars if we let them. Our survival rests in their hands for the time being. So yeah, I thought that was like a weird dodge. I mean, I feel like, yeah, he kind of has a point in that, like the way that human beings imagine gods usually are inflected by the way that like human beings are. Like, they imagine like God to be kind of jealous because human beings tend to have a certain jealousy, but these attributes sort of are modes of relationality that are based in our nature. I mean, it's a bit more complicated than that, but I don't know. I feel like it's interesting that he was like, look at all these weird characteristics that Martians have, but really it's just like, any like Fortune 500 CEO or like, tons of like men in our like malfunctioning society.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, really, it could theoretically describe him. Megalomaniacal, like he, has a very high opinion of his intelligence. So he kind of has a world historical role. Obsessed with sex, like, maybe assuming that the Martians are a real phenomenon, like maybe that has to do with like their sexual torment of him. But he's certainly like, it manifests that a lot. Extremely aggressive. He shot a guy. Fearful and paranoid, definitely true. Power hungry, obsessed with control.
Yeah, that's true. Though he thought he was, saving the world, but every Marine is programmed
to expose it. But yeah, I mean, it seems like naive to think that, I mean, certainly like Israeli prime ministers have been shot, right? Like,
Yitzhak Rabin.
Yitzhak Rabin, he comes to mind right away.
Exactly.
But was he what? Yeah, no, he was after the point where he says that every prime minister, since 1948.
Yeah,
so Yitzhak Rabin was definitely a Martian. Yeah.
Well, I guess so, but maybe he was.
But he wasn't revealed as a Martian upon being killed.
No,
you'd think he would go into that if they're schismatic Martians. That seems like
but they're not going to blow up the whole game by talking about Martians. You know what I mean? Yeah, I noticed that the pastor.
Well, I mean, Kyle would have, right? He would have mentioned schismatic.
I guess so. Yeah. But are you saying he was a Martian and didn't even realize it?
No, I'm saying that Yitzhak. I mean, like if he knew that there were schismatic Martians, Kyle should have said something, right? Like
they're not all bad, kind of thing.
Well, if he knew that there, like, if there were, he probably would have mentioned it. Like, but I guess, maybe he didn't know about that. But how did he know that Yitzhak Rabin was a Martian and not know that he was a schismatic Martian and not realize that shooting a Martian doesn't like necessarily expose the Martian?
I would venture to guess he's not aware of like Yitzhak Rabin's assassination at all.
You're probably right. Every
Israeli
you're
is
probably right. You're probably right.
I think we're overthinking this.
Fair enough. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I
overthinking this.
I did notice the guy he shot is like a state representative.
Yes,
Idaho now.
I did read that article. Yeah, I believe. Yes, I wrote a no in the margins of the article when I found it because, pastor who survived church shooting is Idaho's newest lawmaker. Sometimes the Lord opens doors we do not expect. There were some, not to sus jacket or Martian jacket this guy who probably is totally normal and like, it seems like he's trying to do the good Christian thing and like forgive Kyle Odom for shooting him 6 times and kind of like fucking up his life, because it did take him time to recover and everything. But he did say some interesting things in one article that I found. He says, as he starts his new role in government, Remington plans to take a closer look at the recently introduced anti-abortion bill, which aims to make all abortions illegal in the state of Ohio. He feels that one needs a lot more discussion before decisions are made. Another big passion of his is a bill that aims to give addicted juveniles a resource for recovery. He says this is something he's been working for years with the Department of Health and Welfare. Now he's working with other lawmakers from Northern Idaho to move the bill forward. And this is the quote that I was like, we have 100 beds for adults. We have 0 for juveniles because they won't let us, Remington said. If we had it for juveniles, we could get these juveniles without government overreach into what we're doing. We could get to these juveniles and save their lives. Yeah, we've got to get to these juveniles without government overreach.
Not saying,
not a great quote. I mean, I'm sure that if Kyle were still, on the hunt, that wouldn't do much to allay his suspicions or concerns. But I'm gonna operate under the assumption that despite being probably like sus evangelical who like loves Ted Cruz, he's like not a Martian. Well,
I guess not.
We'll see.
We'll see. He also, he like forgives. Out. I guess they diagnosed Kyle Odom with schizophrenia.
But it's also just what a Martian would do.
It kind of.
You can see them like smirking at him, like, "Don't I forgive you, Kyle? Like, we still want you as our sex slave. Like,
yeah,
you can't hurt us. Your only
poor guy.
purpose is
They
to
have
sleep."
him medicated now, so now he admits that he made.
Yeah, he realizes now he's schizophrenic. Yeah, they broke him.
Mm-hmm.
They brought him in to the fold.
They did.
Just like he said to Obama, if you're still in there, keep fighting. But
well, Kyle, if you're still in there, I mean, like, don't shoot
fighting.
anybody, but like keep fighting spiritually, I guess.
Yeah, do not shoot anyone else. As we've seen, it does not work.
No,
it has not succeeded in
doesn't.
exposing the Martians.
Not a single time.
Yeah.
Nope. You so focused on who, you don't realize who fucking you. You so suckered into who, you don't realize who fucking you. Motherfucker, bend over. Bend over. Grab your ankles, touch your knees, bend over. Bend over. Bend over. Grab your ankles, touch your knees, bend over. Motherfucker, You so focused on who, you don't realize who fucking you. You so suckered into who, you don't realize who fucking you. Motherfucker, bend over. Just talking about who you fucking kidding. I do this for a fucking living. Private life, public life. I can't tell the fucking difference. I'm from the city, people love to visit. Every square foot, 100 bitches. Hoes horn, it ain't nothing new. If I ain't hit it, someone hit it. Bob, it's more than life than money riches. It's more than life than fucking bitches. Screenshots, ass shots, and some rock shots. That's why I don't trust them bitches. She ain't friendly with the mother bitches. All they is to her is competition. She just won't be complimented. She just want 100 million followers. Back it up, bend it over on the cyber list. On your back, knees up, gynecologist. And you know who stays anonymous. Put it together, then it's obvious. But you so focused on who fucking who, you don't realize who fucking you. You so suckered into who fucking who, you don't realize who fucking you. Motherfucker, bend over. Bend over. Grab your ankles, touch your knees, bend over. Motherfucker, bend over. Bend over. Grab your ankles, touch your knees, bend over. Motherfucker, you be bugging off of who fucking who. You don't realize who fucking you. You be bugging off of who fucking who. You don't realize who fucking you. Motherfucker, bend over. Bob, miss me with them conscious lyrics. You sound just like the 1%ers. You must have did a bunch of acid. Either that or you just fucking with us. You wanna be a star, sell out concert tickets. A mansion in a Hollywood subdivision. You get the fame under one condition. You get copied at the cloning center. They kill them with a comment in it. Overdose from a drug addiction. Same story, same headline. A stroke, a heart attack, an aneurysm. Celebrities and politicians. Just to name a couple members. Rituals and pedophilia. Sacrifices, blood religion. The Queen of England got arrest warrants for the disappearance of a dozen children. Do your research on the topic. At the same time, every year, kids come up missing. But you so focused on who fucking who, you don't realize who fucking you. You so suckered into who fucking who, you don't realize who fucking you. Motherfucker, bend over. Bend over. Grab your ankles, touch your knees, bend over. Motherfucker, bend over. Bend over. Grab your ankles, touch your knees, bend over. Motherfucker. You be bugging off.
So should we move on to? I feel like this one's gonna get. This is a beefy one right here.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Number 5. Okay, I'll read. This is from non-Euclidean cutie, who says, "What's up with Yeonmi Park and the North Korean defector sphere and her close friend Michael Malice?"
I've heard of Yeonmi Park, but who's Michael Malice?
I forgot to look up Michael Malice as kind of okay. He's like. I can already tell he's like an edgelord. Oh God, he's a Ukrainian American author, podcaster, columnist, anarchist, and media personality.
He's the host of You're Welcome, YOUR Welcome, like a welcome belonging to you. All right.
Yeah, he had a biography written about him in 2006 called Ego and Hubris, the Michael Malice story. He was born.
An autobiography? No. Okay.
No,
he's
a
the
biography.
subject of a Harvey Pekar biography.
What's going on here?
One of Del Close's comics.
Oh, is he?
Well,
Is he?
the Harley Pickwad character,
Oh, it's the American
yeah.
Splendor, because he did a parody of that, right? Like
exactly.
American Squalor.
Yeah, American Squalor. Yeah.
I always thought that
Interesting.
movie looked
What the hell?
stupid.
Why was Harvey Peckwar writing a biography of this guy?
Oh God, he was born in Lviv. He was born in Lviv. Which everybody listening knows where that is now.
Yeah.
But, a hotbed of, let's say, very robust Ukrainian nationalist sentiments. I would say, formerly
people who are not relevant. Just a typical thing that any country has, and are especially irrelevant when your president's Jewish and are meaningless, even if they're part of the National Guard.
Yes, he is Jewish actually, and it was a Russian-speaking Jew. Michael Kretschmer is his actual name, but he decided to be a punk rock badass.
President Chaos.
Yeah. So I guess I know I've heard this guy's name before, but okay, Wikipedia says, well, he moved to Bensonhurst, Brooklyn when he was 2. Let me see so he was a refusenik. 1978, his family left the USSR, and his father worked as a courier and studied computer science at Baruch College. He later worked for Merrill Lynch. Interesting. He went to Stuyvesant High School and Bucknell University and worked for Goldman Sachs before quitting. Okay. And so he's a media personality known for trolling others on social media and for shapeshifting between radical political groups, according to the American Conservative. His pseudonym surname was inspired by nicknames such as Sid Vicious and Polystyrene that were common with the punk movement and the cultural movement that centered around Andy Warhol, two cultural movements that greatly influenced Malice. Oh, he created Overheard in New York, that blog. Remember that?
Oh my God!
Right?
Really? I do remember that. Wow,
that was a long time ago. Yeah, 2003. And then there was a book published on it, and then he was the subject of Harvey Picar's biographical graphic novel, Ego and Hubris. The biography
he
deals.
Now has You're Welcome is now on Podcast One. And he's had interviews with Glenn Greenwald, Justin Amash, Madison Cawthorn, Lauren Southern, Adrian Curry, Mike Cernovich, Tom Woods, and of course, James Lindsay.
I'm getting a certain vibe here. I feel like I'm smelling sulfur. There's a certain Silicon Valley billionaire, I think, circling around this here. It's interesting, because Podcast One, by the way, is where Bret Easton Ellis's podcast started.
Awesome.
A person that's been at Peter Thiel's house, apparently. And again, part of this sort of extended web, the Thiel network. Now I understand why he is brought up with Yeonmi Park, because in 2014 he published his first solely authored work, Dear Reader, the unauthorized biography of Kim Jong-il. Oh boy.
Cool.
Oh boy. The book is
unauthorized autobiography, so it's written from
the hypothetical first-person view of Kim himself and is a semi-farcical commentary on how he is portrayed to the North Korean people. Oh boy. Oh my God. Wait a minute. Much of the material was based on English language propaganda material that Malice collected while on a week-long trip to Pyongyang, North Korea in 2012. Wait a minute.
How could you visit North Korea and then not challenge anything that Yeonmi Park says? Maybe she doesn't use her most insane statements on him.
We'll talk about her in a second, but wait a minute. He was in North Korea also. He was in the DPRK in 2012 also.
Wow.
We were in the DPRK in 2012
true,
too.
We were.
Did we cross paths? We ran into a few annoying libertarians there that were visiting, but I don't think we ran into him.
Yeah, we did run into one guy, but I don't think it was him.
I don't think it was him. We didn't run into any edgelord American Gen Xers necessarily, but I can only imagine what he wrote an article about his experiences in Reason magazine. NK News gave it a positive review, and he goes on. Yeah, he's a regular on Fox News now. He goes on Red Eye, Gutfeld, Tucker. He's been on Joe Rogan and the Rubin Report. What's this guy's I guess he teamed up with Yeonmi Park at a certain point.
I guess they're friends. I don't know.
He says he describes himself as an anarchist without adjectives.
Cool.
He's advocated for the peaceful dissolution of the United States.
Of course.
He described his politics as a combination of anarchism, objectivism, and libertarianism in 2006. That's just redundant.
Yeah,
Like,
true.
you know, just say you're an anarchist, or just say you're an objectivist. It's all the same. Okay, so this guy, I don't really know. Let me see what he's actually been doing, because we looked in. I did some dives last night into Yeonmi Park. I've been aware of her for a long time, but oh boy, like, where do we even begin with Yeonmi Park, who basically has been doing the rounds? Like, you can find her on every kind of like intellectual dark web Peter Thiel adjacent podcast, basically doing kind of the exact same.
Yeah, she did the rounds. Yeah,
she did the rounds. She did Lex Friedman, who goes on Joe Rogan all the time, and I think, was he from MIT? Kind of sus. Another maybe he's Ukrainian. I forget if Lex Friedman's a Russian or Ukrainian Jew / Israeli, or like, oh, he's a computer scientist. That's right. Yeah. And then of course our favorite, my old Occupy comrade Tim Pool.
Yeah, right.
Had her on
Of course,
to basically talk about how
would not
woke
watch that
is
video.
just as bad as
that was amazing
North
to
Korea.
me. She was like, Columbia University is just as bad as North Korea, and it's like, yeah, okay, like, yeah, that's like amazing propaganda for Columbia University or for North Korea. Like, you're kind of like, oh yeah, it's the same as going to an Ivy League school in New York City. Yeah, all right. Well,
the thing she says, Lex Friedman is an AI researcher working on autonomous vehicles, human robot interaction, and machine learning at MIT and beyond. So, okay, that guy is like Mr. I'm standing up for like humanity against the woke hordes and hanging out with Joe Rogan. You just see such a commonality with like this entire group of like weird techno like libertarians. And Yeonmi Park, I guess, slipped right into it and did the rounds and had a book out. And hold on. Michael Malice, Yeonmi Park. Michael Malice is a genius. This is a clip from Yeonmi Park talking to Lex Friedman. They're just talking about what a genius Michael Malice is. So he just goes around and, I guess they had a disagreement about anarchy, because I don't know what Yeonmi Park's actual like politics are, except like hating.
They seem to be like, I'm a grifter. I'm
Yeah.
just a grifter, and I'll say whatever it takes for me to get like a talk show appearance. I'm reading this article from the New York Post, probably signed off on by Sohrab, about the problem of wokeness. Like, just imagine, like, I'm sure we're going to talk about some of the things she said she experienced in North Korea, but like, this is what she says. Going to Columbia, the first thing I learned was safe space. She said, every problem they explained us is because of white men. Some of the discussions of white privilege reminded her of the caste system in her native country, where people were categorized based on her ancestors, she said, sorry. In one class, a teacher discussing Western civilization asked his students if they had a problem with the name of the topic. Most students raised their hands, according to Park. Some, she said, mentions issues with the colonial slant of the discussion. And classes often began with professors asking students for their preferred pronouns, with the use of they becoming scary, as she feared being socially penalized for not being inclusive enough in her vocabulary. English is my third language, she said. It's very hard for me to say he and she sometimes. I misuse them. I just love the idea that like she's like just wide-eyed and like terrified that like she's gonna,
be taken out and canceled.
Yeah. It's hilarious and like just exposes her as like an absurd grifter, the things that she says about the DPRK. I mean, obviously, like, are components of the government, the DPRK, that aren't ideal, and that are worth voicing problems with. But her depiction of it is literally like that everyone had to eat grasshoppers and bugs, and the street was like lined with corpses, and people were just eating flowers because like everyone's starving and no one's allowed to
eating
farm.
human flesh on the regular. And the stories and the way she tells the stories are like, because she has like she has like a method of how she talks about it with all these people, and all of them end up doing the same, whether it's Joe Rogan or Tim Pool or Lex Friedman. They all just like end up being like, wow, that's crazy. Like that's all I can say, because the things she's saying, it's like, wait. So they eat the children, and she's like, yeah. Yeah, they do. Like she just keeps doubling down every time somebody almost asks for like clarification. Where it's like, wait, you mean literally? Like they do this? And she's like, yeah, literally, that's exactly what they do. But like the things she says are like in some cases so outlandish. Like I'm trying to even think, there's so many of them, like all the stuff you just listed, but also that the North Korean government, because they don't have enough fertilizer to grow crops, she doesn't ever say why, but because communism doesn't work, so they never have fertilizer, so they order every North Korean family that they have to provide like 1,000 kilograms of poo to the government every year, or else they'll be sent to a prison camp and executed. And so like people go around scavenging like poop everywhere. She even contradicts herself once because she's like, yeah, like when I was a little kid, I'd have to go on the street and like collect, like if I saw dog poop, I mean, there's no dogs obviously, because like they killed all the dogs and ate them, but you know what I mean? Like, so she was like she like contradicted herself by saying like, how could there be dog poop if as she said, Kim Jong-un, ordered every dog to be taken, slaughtered, and eaten because he thought it was too Western. Which again is like, also
they confiscated entire dog.
All the dogs, every single dog got confiscated, and it's like with the DPRK, you get stories like that so often that end up being like not true, and you can verify in a lot of cases, particularly when they say that like Kim Jong-un is like killed a top general or like blah blah blah, and then they like see him at a parade the next month. Like that's happened so many times in the last few years. Also, it's worth pointing out that she left the DPRK in like, I think 2007 or 2008. So she left when it was still under Kim Jong-il, but she talks about things like Kim Jong-il's funeral that as if she was there and like knows about it and like experienced it. She said that, because Joe Rogan's like, why is everyone like, what's up with this performative display of like grief? Like, are people are they brainwashed? Like, what's going on? And she's like, no, they know that if they do not show enough grief, they will be executed. So everybody knows that that's what you have to. But then she goes far that she's like, even babies know. And Joe Rogan's just like, wow. Oh, damn. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, how does a baby know that it has to like do performative mourning for Kim Jong-il or it will be murdered? Like, maybe she's talking about toddlers.
Yeah, maybe she meant like very young kids.
Very young children. But
but
she said, like, she's like, when you're born in North Korea, you just know. It's like she says a lot of things like that sound to Westerners as just like, wow, damn, that's crazy. But like, none of these things actually hold up to scrutiny.
Well, listening to her, you can really tell that she just knows what will make people say like, wow, that's crazy. Like she's just been saying like a number of different stories and embellishing them over time and just like doing it up. Like she said that she in school in North Korea, like the way they teach math is they say like, you have 4 Americans, you kill 2 Americans, how many Americans are left? Like
honestly though, that might be like one of the few things she says that might have like a grain of truth to it, because like countries have done that like it throughout the world, like worked kind of political things. Though I mean,
I'm sure that there is an element of propagandization in the education in North Korea, but like I'm sure that they do
in like word problems or whatever. Like there are 6 U.S. imperialist like fighter jets like flying over the border. Like you shoot down 2. But you know what? Hey, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying they do it. You know what I mean? Like
I don't know. I feel like they probably do normal math and then like
no, I'm sure they do. I'm sure
history.
They do. But according to her, it's like they don't get taught anything about the rest of the world. I think she said in like other interviews that she didn't know Africa existed until she left the DPRK because it's like illegal to teach children that Africa
I knew
exists.
people who didn't know that Africa, like where Africa was or what Africa was, like in American public school. So that might not be a lie.
but they didn't know it was a thing at all. Like they didn't even know of its existence. Like,
and her family was pretty like well off too. Right?
Yeah, that's the thing is that her stories, even though, because, there was a period in the 1990s where there was a famine and things were very difficult and people did die of starvation. The arduous march is what they call it. Mm-hmm. And that was mainly due to the collapse of the Soviet Union and like this huge economic shock that happened. And, it happened in Cuba. It happened across the entire like socialist bloc as it was pillaged and, whatever. But she was born in like 93, I think. So she wouldn't even have been like conscious of like, I think the arduous march was really, I feel like from 94 to 98. So this would have been like when she was a baby, from like 1 to 4 or 5 years old. So maybe she has memories of things being bad. But then when she talks about it, like, you're right, she talks about like the conditions her family was living in and how like, I mean, one anecdote she says over and over and over again is that when she got to China for the first time, she saw a trash can and was like, "What's that?" And they're like, "That's a trash can. That's where you put things that you don't need or don't want anymore." And she's like, "What?" Because I had never encountered that concept before, that you would like have a thing that you didn't need. Like, we never had anything to throw away because we had nothing. And it's just like, okay, I don't know if you can remember perfectly, but I feel like if I went back and looked at like my video footage, like there were trash cans.
I definitely threw tons of stuff into trash cans in North Korea.
It's overall a pretty clean country, as are most like communist countries.
We went to like the part that was like approved for showing to tourists. So it was like the nicest part.
Yes.
But we did drive down a lot of highways and they weren't like piled with corpses. Like,
No. Which again, maybe they clear out the corpses every morning. They get like the phone call that like
they pile up.
Yeah, Mr. O like calls them at the hotel, like the road crew. It's like, all right, get the bodies off the road. Like they're coming in 30 minutes. But
that's the one clean road that we drive down. No, I feel like the level of dystopia that she was describing. I mean, one funny thing relative to our tour is that she claims that like the reason she when she finally realized that like the sort of the level of oppression and like control that she lived under was when she saw Titanic, like an illegally imported DVD of Titanic.
Oh yeah.
And that was what taught her the true meaning of love. And like
which is not
no
taught
love in North
and it's
Korea.
outlawed. She literally says there's no love, there's no vocabulary or expression of love between people in North Korea. The only version of love that is allowed is love for the dear leader,
or even the concept of the word I.
Oh yeah, she said. Yeah. I mean, talk about problems with pronouns. She said, I literally didn't. There's like no word for like I in like the North Korean, blah blah blah, or like it's been outlawed, so you can only say we all the time, like the royal we or whatever.
I mean, it's really not surprising. It's like not too different from the way that, I mean, people who weren't even like quote unquote defectors or any kind of native informant would say like the same level of bullshit after 2001, but eventually people started calling them out, whereas like the information embargo, like there's no like, I mean, she has been called out by other defectors as being like a total confabulator, and just exaggerating and lying about things.
It's also interesting just reading about, I'm sure that this is tilted on her Wikipedia, but like her early life, that all important early life bio. Because, she mentions all of these horrible things, but like you said, like her family was like relatively not like at the, I don't know, the bottom of the heap, or so to speak. Like her father was a part of the Workers' Party of Korea, basically. And her mother was a nurse for the Korean People's Army. So her dad, Park Jin-sik, was a civil servant who worked at Hyesan, which is in northern DPRK. He was a civil servant that worked at the town hall there. Her paternal grandfather, Park Chang-gyu, was a former civil servant during the Japanese occupation, and he initially, she talks about this all the time, but the songbun, the status, which I've read a lot in like Western sources about, like this is the caste system of DPRK, and it's all based upon like what were your grandparents doing, the ultimate like canceling people for their grandparents' country. I know, right? The ultimate sins of the father, People's Republic,
just like the idea of white privilege at Columbia.
So they judge you for what your great grandparents did when the Japanese invaded and during the Great Korean War, etc. But it says here that her paternal grandfather had a high songbun status after serving as a military officer in the Korean War, but her father's opportunities were limited after her uncle, Park Dong-il, was convicted for, what do you think he was convicted for? For speaking his mind? Do you think he was convicted for stealing food because everyone's starving? Do you think he was convicted for like reading a Bible?
Yeah, it was always Sorry, what was it? Yeah.
I hate to disappoint. He was convicted for rape and attempted murder in 1980.
Wait, really? I thought that he was like a smuggler.
Well, no. This is her uncle.
Oh, is her uncle. I see.
I mean, maybe she's not 100% wrong about how entire families, like political or like career prospects, could be negatively impacted by one member of the family doing something that is seen as bad. I wonder
in what context that happened, because like the fact that her uncle was a rapist and her father was involved in smuggling does lend a little bit of credence to something I've always suspected, which is like she was able to get out of North Korea through like the aid of human traffickers.
Yeah.
And she tells like a lot of continually varying, very inconsistent stories about her experience with that. But I always found it a bit odd that she was like so readily able to contact these human traffickers. And it makes me wonder like what the extent of the smuggling that her father was involved in might have been. But that's just pure speculation.
Anytime you get somebody fleeing a communist country and is making a career out of talking shit about how horrible it is and doing the old Solzhenitsyn dance, you do have to wonder, like, well, what did they do? You know, like, was it totally just like political persecution, or is the fact that, okay, it's also funny because she talked about how like, rape was just like, she mentions in one of these interviews that like, rape is just ubiquitous in North Korea. Like men just rape women constantly and get away with it. And it's like, oh, you mean like your uncle who got sent to prison for it? That's like a weird thing to
well,
kind
obviously
of,
that was a lie and he really went to prison for,
Yeah. And interesting. Listen to this. So I guess her father was unable to complete his military service around the time his brother went to jail for rape because he was having like appendicitis or something, which is a story she also tells, that like the medical system was so bad and they don't use anesthesia. But also her mother, Byung Kun Suk, had a low songbun status because her ancestors had been landowners in North Hamgyong province. So we have the descendant of somewhat wealthy landowners. Interesting. Yeah. So her father ended up finding employment at a foundry, but he decided to supplement his income by smuggling Chinese cigarettes, clothes, and rice. He met his wife, Yeonmi Park's mother, in Kowon in 1989 during one of his smuggling runs. He later established a metal smuggling operation in the capital, Pyongyang, where he spent most of the year with his mistress, Won Sun, while his wife and daughters remained in Hyesan. Her family was wealthy by North Korean standards during most of her childhood. However, the family later struggled after her father's imprisonment for trading salt, sugar, and other spices. Okay, hold up, wait. So, like, there's no way that she was like, if there were people starving, it wouldn't have been somebody of her background that was starving, right? I think we can safely say.
Yeah, and I think that she assimilated. Obviously, like, I don't 100% blame someone for like who's young for falling into that pattern almost, because it is such an easy grift and like other means like might not seem as practical. Like you could find out pretty easily that like you can, you're in the community of North Korean defectors and like some of them say like these things, and like by saying, certain things, people really like that, or they'll hire you to give like a speech like to
and you get money from the South Korean government.
Yeah.
The South Korean government will give you a ton of money if you arrive there and are a defector. And I think there's a direct financial incentive to like the worst things if you're willing to say, the more money you can get in your pocket. I do get it. Like, everyone's trying to hustle and everything, but
like, there's all sorts of things. Like it's clear that like, the whole thing of like eating cicadas and dragonflies, like she at first didn't say anything like that and denied that such things happened, but then like maybe she heard someone saying that and she like put it into her story. And
I did
like,
notice
things like people being killed for watching Hollywood movies. Like
let's just say maybe because I think we didn't finish that thought, that we personally know for sure that like that story has to be bullshit, because when we were in the DPRK, our guides all loved Titanic and talked about how it was the best movie ever.
Songs with Titanic
and they sang "My Heart Will Go On" to us before we left.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
if it's so illegal,
even if they were like the, that was like a special thing to sort of show off how like North Korea isn't as bad as they say.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of other, there's an article in the Diplomat called "The Strange Tale of Yeonmi Park," which interviews some other defectors about her. And they, one of them says like it's absolutely ridiculous that anyone would be killed for watching a Hollywood movie. And I go to church with 30 other defectors, and they would all tell you the same thing. Sorry, 350 defectors.
Damn.
It's ridiculous to even say that would happen, and it has never happened before. Said a 59-year-old woman from Haisan who escaped in 2009. So
see, she said, but Yeonmi Park says that if you get caught watching a movie like Titanic, you get executed publicly in like a soccer stadium.
Yeah.
Yes, so the idea that both she didn't know what love was, maybe that's because her dad was. Maybe that's because her dad was a two-timing philanderer. Maybe that's why she didn't know what the content, and her mom never said "I love you." So maybe there's some personal things going on here. But, she didn't know what the concept of love was because it was illegal. And then she saw Titanic and realized love is a concept. And but she had to watch it secretly or else they'd murder her. It's just bullshit.
I mean, they definitely have an idea of like loving your family.
Oh, I mean, we remember I bought the DVD Family Basketball Team, which is a huge hit in the late 90s in North Korea. And then that was even kind of made during the Arduous March, and there even are some like references in it. Like they keep making fun of the dad character for being like obese, but he's really just like he's got a little bit of a pudgy stomach, but like
and isn't
that was a little bit.
The other one about the traffic cop, isn't there kind of like a
traffic controller at Crossroads?
Yes, traffic controller.
Yeah, I mean, no, like if you ever watch like any like so many like North Korean things, it's like very like sweeping romantic, like it's almost old school how like sweeping. And I think the one CD of songs that I bought, I mean a lot of the songs were about we will march with our comrade Kim Jong-il, blah blah blah, but it's like there was like romance in Pyongyang or something like that. Like it's just stupid. It's dumb as fuck. the idea that like this is some Orwellian like crazy nightmare, and the fact that she can get away with it, and
I honestly, I honestly think the thing that like kind of gives the whole game away is her like, maybe not getting enough attention or like becoming less popular or not getting the same mileage out of the defector tales as she used to, and so then deciding to say that like going to Colombia is, in her words, North Korea was pretty crazy, but not this crazy. Even North Korea is not this nuts. And like to say like that, oh yeah, North Korea, there were dead bodies piled in the streets. No one knew what love was. There was no word for I. People were executed for watching movies in
people
public.
Were literally like living in the pod, eating the bugs.
And then to turn that would be like, and all these traumatic stories that she has, and then to turn around and say, it's as bad as like having to say they, it's
very
like
bizarre. I mean,
people saying that Jane Austen like is colonial or something. Like, okay, well, you've completely undermined yourself. Like,
No, I mean, really, I mean, she also says, I just like the little things like, if your house is on fire, your first responsibility is to save the portraits of, Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il. And if you don't, you'll be executed.
That's
if an inspector comes by your house and you haven't like dusted off the portraits of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il and they find dust on it, sent to a labor camp, executed. It's like when you actually look at like, okay, it does sound like assuming that most of this narrative of her early life is broadly true. She had a pretty good life, and then her dad was illegally smuggling various goods and making a bunch of money and getting a little bit fat off the hog at a time when when North Korea was going through some challenging economic times in the 90s and early 2000s. And then he got caught and lost his party membership, and their living standards declined. Maybe they did go through some hard times, but it's kind of like the way she talks about it is literally just like, I was born in North Korea and like this is what life is. And it's like there's nothing about how, well, your dad like is a criminal, and so your family kind of. I mean, honestly, in America, if you had a dad who was rich and then he goes to prison, all that money gets forfeited. You probably would drive them into poverty. Maybe it's not as bad poverty, but you know what I mean? It's like that kind of happens anywhere in the world. Like if you,
yeah, sometimes you wish that they lost a bit more money. Maybe there's a middle ground here.
Well, yeah,
but,
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so he was, this guy was doing like, it sounds like he was running a whole operation. He was smuggling metal in the capital. I mean, damn. And he had a mistress there, you know, so this guy was like balling out by like DPRK standards, which it's not really legal to ball out in the DPRK, and everybody knows it. And so he was like accumulating private wealth, which I'm sorry, but you know, in that society, that's considered parasitism, right? You know, that's like not so I get it. You're going to defend your dad. He didn't do anything wrong. But then the idea that they went, you know, they got into China, helped by human traffickers, which makes you wonder, like, was he smuggling out people before this as well?
Yeah, like where'd they meet those human traffickers?
And given what she says
but,
about like the
Maybe
trafficking
just, like,
networks, like it almost makes me wonder, because it sounds like her dad was not a nobody in this kind of whole like underground world of like smuggling. And so why would she and her mother be basically like sold into sex slavery for a couple years?
That story like changed a lot.
It changes a lot.
Like dramatically changed. Yeah.
And it's very harrowing. I mean,
yeah.
if it's true, I'm almost like, that's the part of the story. I'm kind of like, look, if you were like sold into sex slavery and like raped by a human trafficker, that's absolutely awful.
Yeah.
That's also not the DPRK government doing that to you. That's a bunch of like mercenary
the human traffickers that your dad
that's
hired.
human traffickers that like your dad like was associates by. So like, take it up with your dad, like more than, you know, don't blame Kim Jong-un for it or Kim Jong-il. But then, you know, there's some kind of outlandish sounding kind of claims with that. And
yeah, it's a story that's changed. I mean, obviously, like it's, you know, it's a similar thing with like someone like Ayan, who has like made a lot, you know, you can't really like know, and you can't really say like Ayan Hirsi Ali, that is, who's like, you know, she's lied about a lot of things about her background, and it naturally brings up the, you know, her claim to have undergone female circumcision. And, you know, it's like, we can't really tell someone that they, you know, you can't really challenge it, but like,
yeah,
people are like, you know,
then, you know, like just like a lot of DPRK defectors, you start to get kind of plugged into the whole NGO complex, and you become like a voice, right? And then so that's where she's made this like huge career. You know, I think she started teaming up with Christian missionaries who are always active in that, and then, you know, got into Colombia, and after publishing her memoir in 2015, which, by the way, I noticed at one point in the Joe Rogan interview, she mentioned like, oh, well, you know, there's a slogan, like right after saying something ridiculous about like North Koreans aren't allowed to like have the I pronoun or something. She was like, well, you know, like in North Korea, like they say you have nothing to envy because it's the greatest country in the world. And she was saying, you know, South Korean, we learned that South Koreans are basically like held hostage in like a U.S. military camp, and all of them want to come here. You know, we're the great paradise on earth, which I would question if like that's literally what they're saying. I think they say our country's special. It's great. Our country's great. Like, we love it. But I don't know if they say like every other country sucks. But she mentioned like,
she thought that only North Koreans hated Americans, but then to her shock, there are even people in America who hate America too.
Wow, I know.
So tragic.
The last thing she expected. But, you know, she mentioned, there's this thing called nothing to envy. That's a slogan in the DPRK, nothing to envy. And that reminded me years ago, I think before we went to the DPRK, I had the misfortune of reading what at the time was like a really big best-selling book called Nothing to Envy, Ordinary Lives in North Korea, which came out in 2009 by the LA Times journalist Barbara Demick, that is based on interviews with North Korean defectors from the city of Cheongjin, which is also in the north, who had escaped, you know, who had fled the DPRK. And I remember like as my like understanding of the DPRK kind of after we went there, and I think maybe like my understanding of like psyops and like misinformation from like, you know, the US side kind of evolved over the years. I remember like so many of the stories in it were like there were about like cannibalism, like during a lot of it was about during the arduous march during the famine and all the horrible things, like they had to eat seeds and weeds and they had to burn human hair to like create fires, and people engaged in cannibalism and stuff. And basically, like this book, it was a huge booster of all of these kind of memes and stories about the DPRK that couldn't really be verified at all. And so it made me realize that I think that Yeonmi Park is kind of cribbing anecdotes from this book and like pasting them into her own life and talking about it like it's things she witnessed. But like that, because I think if I went back, it's been years since I read it, but I think if I went back, I could find like dozens of anecdotes. And of course, maybe people could say, well, that's because it's true. But like,
right.
This book is also one that I've realized, like, oh my God, that book was probably filled with like all kinds of like CIA bullshit that was like exaggerating, or I don't know, like the South Koreans were paying people to like tell these horrible stories and all that other stuff. It also was a famine. So like, I'm sure there was human misery and bad things happening, but like the maliciousness of the government and things like that, and like the barbarism that was going on there, you know, it was definitely kind of amped up to 11. And now Yeonmi Park is like the next generation of that to basically, but I think she's almost like, I don't know, did any of the other defectors that don't like her say that she cribs stories from other defectors?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or that like new elements of her narrative like emerged over time. Like the for instance, the thing about eating insects and stuff. At first she denied experiencing that, but then she started saying that had happened. And, you know, people have pointed out that she like, you know, just changed elements of her story that don't make sense. Like part of the, you know, there's this, I mean, obviously the aspect that we mentioned about the human traffickers, like that wasn't there originally. She says like, you know, I was too young to kind of bring it up, but the details of it, as we said, have like kind of changed. And like the details of her escape itself has changed. Like in some accounts, she's with her father and her mother, and then she's only with her mother, and her mother like sort of sacrifices herself and like allows herself to be like sexually violated in order to spare, you know, like kind of as a weird exchange or something, which is very dramatic, but
with the Mongolians.
I think while crossing into Mongolia, the Mongolian
the
thing
soldiers
is that
tell her like, haha, we're going to send you back to North Korea. And then they all prepare to like commit suicide. And then they're like, just kidding. That's a story she tells over and over again. Well, probably in different forms, but
she said that like, you know, in one event, in one case, she said, like, you know, I escaped with my mom, my father, the three of us. I had to survive. I had to really live. And with that thought, I just run like really faster. My mom was behind me. My father was there. And then we all escaped. And there were cars to get us because of the connections with Chinese people. And then we went to China directly. But then she told a different story where she and her mother escape alone. And she has to watch her mother, you know, be raped by a Chinese broker in order to protect her from the same thing happening.
Yes.
And then there's different versions of her father's death, etc. And then she told a story about, being in detention in Mongolia, and she was forced to remove her clothes every day. And, you know, people who knew her said that she used to complain about having to work in the fields and clean in the detention center, but she made no mention of having been subjected to daily strippings. And then, you know, they have this professor who worked as a counselor at the South Korean Processing Center for North Korean refugees. And he said, you know, he'd never heard of anyone being stripped naked at a detention center in Mongolia. And in the past, the South Korean government has sent counselors over to Mongolia to help North Korean defectors in detention. How can defectors be stripped naked every day? It would cause them more psychological distress. It's not possible. So, you know, some of these details have been.
Yeah. And it's like even places like 38 North and like and maybe not NK News because they're really in bed with her, but like you said, the Diplomat, like other people have brought this up that she's like kind of grifting and shifting her narratives and stuff like that. Also, not only have her narratives changed, but her appearance has changed pretty significantly, I would say, since she first came on the scene in like 2014.
So like she's grown up or like what?
No, like she's had extensive work done.
Oh, I see.
Like, I mean, extensive work. If you look at the picture of her, like on her Wikipedia at the top,
surprising.
2014, and then look at her on like Lex Friedman or Joe Rogan. I mean, she really, let's say she definitely embraced South Korean culture and beauty standards and
true.
probably got a lot of money from people to do that. And now like has a huge like YouTube following.
Common choice. Yeah. She really has. Oof.
She went full like K-pop, you know, and but it's kind of like infuriating watching these like podcast interviews with all these like teal connected people that are just kind of letting her like tell whatever version of the story she's telling that day and be like, wow, damn, like, wow, they really are just like NPCs and like that's communism. And then furthermore, like that's coming here because purple haired like grad students at Columbia are like using they them pronouns. Like it's just such you could tell like this is like an op of some kind. This is like a you know, this is like an influence op to kind of tie various things together and like give a new fresh coat of paint on old anti-communist propaganda.
Yeah, it's pretty transparent. There's a million things like that. I mean, I feel like she's probably just independently grifting at this point, and like it's just doing its own work because there's an appetite for it, you know, building on the long-standing foundation of like, you know, all the ops that have gone on in the past. It's definitely a career to be made. There's a career to be made in like a lot of these things. There's a career to be made you know, as like a Russia hawk. There's a career to be made as like you're still even in industry of like being an anti-Muslim person all these years later, you know.
Anti-Iran, that'll always like
for sure
a good
like
moneymaker.
Anti-Semitic kind of well, not being anti-Semitic yourself, but like raising the alarm about anti-Semitism like among the woke left or whatever, you know, and hating Palestinians. I'm just reading this article in the Daily Mail, which is really funny. Woke America is like North Korea. Defector Yeonmi Park revealed she was mugged in Chicago by 3 black women, but when she restrained one, she was called racist and forced by white bystanders to let her go.
Oh no!
In all caps. Go is in all caps.
Oh God, no!
Yeah, she was mugged by 3 black women outside a Saks Fifth Avenue store in Chicago. I'm sure the story is just completely made up.
She's just like Del Close. She has like a hysterical story about like being like mugged by like 2 black women in Chicago and like wants to curse them forever and changes all the details in the stories about her life. And it's really just,
she alleged that police and prosecutors declined to charge the thief, but public records indicate that 29-year-old Lucretia Harris was sentenced to 2 years in prison after her arrest in connection with the incident. I feel like she's complaining that like the woke police wouldn't arrest these black women. It's so rare for your mugger to actually be caught. Like she should feel so
and then
lucky.
Get 2 years.
Like,
2 years.
Yeah,
in prison
2 years in
for
prison.
Mugging. I mean, I guess you're mugging a CIA asset, so there's probably an enhancement there. But you know,
this woman's mugshot looks so miserable. She's like, dear Christ. Yeah, it sucks. Honestly,
he's probably gonna have more hardships than Yeonmi Park had in the DPRK.
Oh God,
getting all of that illegal metal profits. I just think, you know, thieves are gonna thieve. She comes from a family of smugglers and rapists and landowners. Basically, it's not the hardest thing to figure out why she might not love dear leader. And she criticized us indirectly by saying that anybody that goes to the DPRK and bows before the statues of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il is doing free work for the regime. The way she put it was funny because it's like, I mean, you could, if it's like fair enough, you could make a point that, all right, yeah, like you shouldn't be co-signing it. But she said that it's aiding the regime's propaganda by allowing themselves, the tourists, to be portrayed as if they too love and obey the leader. So I feel like the way she's saying it is like, if like DPRK citizens are walking by, they would see like us like bowing in front of the Kim Il-sung statue and be like, wow, see, like those Americans like love and respect Kim Jong-un just like I do.
Even though I learned in school that like all Americans deserve to die during my math problems, like so it isn't quite.
Yeah, wow. I give the North Koreans a little more intellectual credit than that. I think you know we talked about some real issues. Mr. O, our guide, isn't it funny? He knew what Libya was, even though they don't teach you that Africa exists. How did he know about Libya?
Wow.
Oh, interesting. I love that we can fact check this.
He must have thought that it wasn't in Africa. He must have thought that it was, you know, next door to North Korea or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a state of the United States.
Okay.
I mean, why wouldn't they teach you about all of the abuses of the African continent by the U.S. imperialists? Seems like
I think they do. That's the fucking funny thing is I think they do. I think they probably go all into it about like, look at like, if any, I mean, it's in their interest to basically point out all the horrible shit the U.S. has done in the 20th century and like the horrible legacies of colonialism, which, you know, is like a little bit relevant to like the founding of the DPRK, you know, coming out of resisting Japanese imperialism and stuff. It's just so fun. Like people are so, you see it right now with everything that's going on in Eurasia. Like people don't think that other countries have like history that like matters to them. And they're just like, why does like DPRK not like us? Like we fought a war so long ago. And it's like there are deeper reasons why they are the way they are. And they don't totally line up with us. And like we have antagonistic interests and like maybe they have a point from their perspective. Like why the fuck should the DPRK learn to love it? Like Yami Park always says that like I came to America and I learned not all Americans are bastards. And everyone's like, yeah, like we're not. And it's like, AAAB, well, mostly. I guess it would be self-indicting, but a lot of Americans
she says
are
she's
bastards.
not racist because she has her nanny is a Muslim and wears a hijab.
All right, well, there you go. All right,
Well,
call off your dogs.
Yeah, exactly. Stop it, woke laughs.
Yeah,
stop accusing her of racism for simply
Stop
being
it.
mugged in Chicago, which is a hellhole.
Yeah.
Chicago, you know, under the Democrat mayors, is worse than eating bugs in a wasteland piled with dead bodies, where rape has no meaning and no one knows the word love or I.
Rape has no meaning unless your uncle does it and literally goes to gulag for it. I'm sorry.
Well,
maybe if you rape somebody and attempt to murder them, maybe you should go to gulag. I'm okay with that. Like,
yeah,
labor camp.
I mean, yeah.
Unless you want to be an anarchist like Michael Malice and just let people rape whoever they want. Maybe that's their ideological disagreement. I don't know.
Well, Michael Malice apparently ghost wrote, according to him, he never was able to actually like legally assert it, and his case was like dismissed or he lost. But he said like that woman, Andrea Tantaros, didn't she date one of the Trumps?
You might be
Fox
getting her
News?
mixed up with Kimberly Guilfoyle. But she was a Fox
Dated
News
one of the
host,
Trumps
right?
too. But yeah, so she was a Fox host. She was on the 5. Maybe I am getting her confused because she was also on the 5. But she wrote a book called Tied Up in Knots: How Getting What We Wanted Made Women Miserable. So I guess it's kind of like, you know, an anti-girl
boss
thing.
screen,
Yeah, exactly.
but actually ghost written by Michael Malice.
Yes. And he sued her in 2016, claiming he wrote the book.
Dope.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Cool.
maybe he does believe like in, you know, just like raping your wife or whatever.
Maybe he does.
I mean,
Right.
it's certainly malicious.
Malicious. Yeah, he should go back and he should go back to Lviv right now and unleash some of his malice.
I'm sure that he is like on that beat hard. Yunmi Park
Probably is.
seems like, based on her Twitter, which I'm looking at right now, it seems like she's looking at it from the North Korean angle.
Huh.
She's exploring how, for instance, Putin and Kim Jong-un are soulmates. And Kim Jong-un declared the U.S. as the root cause of Ukraine invasion by Russia.
Boo. Dictator, no.
Will North Korea stand by Russia in World War III?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they will.
Yeah. Yes, they will. Correct.
They are going to. Yeah. Well, we'll see how that plays
The
out.
humanities are at the core of the university. If they are corrupted, there's no way these universities can survive. Jordan Peterson on her podcast from Unity Park.
She went on
my
Jo-
podcast. She described her appalling experience of studying humanities at Columbia University.
Okay.
And it's not long ago that they were great. They did what they said they were going to do. And you went and got a humanities education. You got educated. And you learned to write. You learned to think. You learned history.
Yeah, they won the Cold War, you know.
Yeah, that happened. Yeah.
I bet Brzezinski would have been her mentor if he didn't die. Maybe he was.
He's talking about how Animal Farm made such a big difference in Yunmi Park's life. And that's what reading does for, you know, great books does for people. And
She didn't know what the concept freedom was until like a Christian missionary in China like said you can be free
Explained
now,
freedom to her.
and she's like, what is free? Like I don't understand. Like I am an NPC my whole life.
Yeah.
And she said you can watch TV all you want and wear jeans, and she was like, yay. That's always
This
how
is
it
a weird
starts, isn't it?
headline. Breaking. Crazy reasons why homosexuality is rapidly spreading in North Korea. I wonder what it's the clickbait's work. Yeah, it almost
That's
makes
a
it
lot to
seem like,
unpack.
yeah, it's weird. It almost does seem like she's saying like that's part of their bad governance, that like everyone's becoming gay there.
Are they trying to link that to like the psyop that everyone at the DPRK is on crystal meth?
I don't know. Yeah.
They do try to say that. They're the biggest meth manufacturer in
Wow,
the
she's
whole world.
speaking at Bitcoin 2022.
Maybe she'll be there with Brock Pierce.
Yeah.
Jesus. These people.
It's really funny. She shared that Martin Niemöller First They Came poem, but she said first they came for the right-wing conservative commentators. Then they came for the sitting president. Then they came for the biggest podcaster, Joe Rogan, who was the least biased. Soon they are coming for all of us who don't comply. Wake up while time remains to fight back.
Wake up. She's
That's
seen
amazing.
tyranny. Yeah. Yeah.
Покажи мне людей, уверенных в завтрашнем дне. Нарисуй мне портреты погибших на этом пути. Покажи мне того, кто выжил один из полка. Но кто-то должен стать дверью, а кто-то замком, а кто-то ключом от замка. Земля, небо. Между землей и небом война. И где бы ты ни был, что б ты ни делал, между землей и небом война. Где-то есть люди, для которых есть день и есть ночь. Где-то есть люди, у которых есть сын и есть дочь. Где-то есть люди, для которых теорема верна. Но кто-то станет стеной, а кто-то плечом, под которым дрогнет стена. Земля, небо. Между землей и небом война. И где бы ты ни был, что б ты ни делал, между землей и небом война. Между землей и небом война. Между землей и небом война.
Okay, we're back. And for our last question today, you can go ahead and read it. It's we're gonna walk into the minefield here.
Yeah, true. Carlos Cueros asked thoughts on Alexander Dugin. Other than his political analysis, I've also seen him touch on more occult and esoteric ideas. Yeah, I feel like
have.
he's very, I feel like his political analysis and his esoteric ideas like really go hand in hand. Like he's kind of like and definitely like an evil inspired guy. I mean, he's someone who like will always bring up like Dasein, like Heideggerian concepts, which really I think does attest to the mysticism of Heidegger that I think people generally don't appreciate, for lack of a better word, maybe the mystification of Heidegger and just like Dasein or however you say it, like in German.
Yeah. No, I mean,
he's definitely a sus lord.
I would definitely put him in the category of sus lord. Yeah. I think we have a few. We definitely have a few listeners who are maybe at least like half ironically like Alexander Dugin, but I've always been.
I wonder if Dugin has like a point in the idea of like the two rival factions of Hyperborea and Atlantis. Except like I don't know if like Hyperborea is good. I feel like maybe they're both bad. Like I think that maybe his analysis, like there might be something to that in the same way there's something to the Yankee and Cowboy thing, but it's a bit simplistic. I feel like maybe he might be onto something with the Hyperborea Atlantis dichotomy too. Yeah.
Yeah, he has said stuff like that.
But I mean, he's a fascist. Like,
I mean, he's
a deracialized, allegedly fascist.
Yes, because I think it's too. It would be oversimplifying it to say like, oh, he's just like a fascist or like a European style fascist or like a Nazi or something like that. Even though he does, like you said, he's a big fan of Evola. And,
I mean, he's also like a self-proclaimed fascist, like,
Is he though? Is he a literal?
Well, he was. I mean, anyone who like at any time was like, I am a fascist, like that's rough. Like, yes, he in 1997 in his article, Fascism, Borderless and Red, he proclaimed the arrival of a genuine, true, radically revolutionary and consistent fascist fascism in Russia.
Okay, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
But, he did say, by no means the racist and chauvinist aspects of National Socialism determine the nature of its ideology. The excesses of this ideology in Germany are a matter exclusively of the Germans, while Russian fascism is a combination of natural national conservatism and a passionate desire for true changes. But he praises the Ahnenerbe and the Waffen-SS as, intellectual oases in the framework of the National Socialist regime.
Okay.
So
he's got there's definitely like an esoteric fascist, like that is definitely the current that he's like swimming in. It's like esoteric kind of fascism, less so about kind of like race science and things like that.
Yeah, he's not so much racist. He's more like into the geo-spiritual alignment, I guess.
Yes, he's a big fan of multipolarity, and kind of believes that, I mean, even his theory, which I know somebody pointed out years ago on Twitter, or sorry, his logo or his kind of emblem that he likes to use, which is like the arrows pointing in like every direction. I think it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, the 8-pointed kind of arrow circle thing that also is very similar to like the logo, I think, of the Discordian Society. And somebody, there's an account who's not on Twitter anymore, but I remember they were making connections like back in 2016 to like 4chan, like meme fascist sort of culture and like esoteric fascism. Like this is kind of during the age of like Kek and, like Pepe being a god, Egyptian god and things like that.
Yeah.
And how there's an interesting like convergence between like Duginism, like mystical Duginism and like esoteric fascism.
Well, I was
like,
kind of thinking
shitposting.
It is interesting that, despite the kind of leftward turn of like Cantbot, he did do that like whole raising Thule speech when Trump won, which seems like very like Hyperborea inflected to me. And like, he and his whole like clique are still, like Putin should declare like the Holy Roman Imperium of the Soviet, like not socialist, but like, or maybe no, they are communist now, right?
Like,
so yeah, maybe like
like the
Soviet
Orthodox
Socialist Empire,
Socialist
Orthodox,
republics.
Gnostic Rosicrucian Empire, or some fucking shit. I don't know, but
yeah. But I mean, I had actually listened to Dugin. I think he went on this podcast called what was it called? Again, kind of in like a teal-ish orbit in kind of the medium world. What was it called? Unidentified, maybe. And it was it was kind of rare to see him do like an English language like interview. And this is like a month or so before all the Ukraine stuff popped off. And I was listening to him, and it's like. It seems like he has like he's modulated himself in a certain type of way. Like he's not openly like proclaiming that he's like a super fascist or whatever.
Yeah,
like
fascist,
these days,
fascist fascism.
fascist fascism. But he does, he outlined kind of his like worldview and stuff, and I'm still sussed out by him. Like at the end of the day, but but I think what's really interesting and like relevant about Dugin right now is like there's the whole nother flurry of articles being written by blue checks that are like, this is Putin's Rasputin.
Putin's Rasputin. That's really something.
Putin's Rasputin.
Okay.
Basically that like or as Glenn Beck's clip said here, like meet the sinister man who may be, I don't know, the guiding Putin's next move. So there's all these like hot
sinister man.
Yeah, smart. It's sinister's in all caps, by the way.
He's the new Soros, I guess, of Glenn Beck.
He is kind of like the opposite.
Master.
He's kind of the opposite Soros. Like it's like Dugin's out there with his big beard, like doing all these machinations and stuff. But so there's a lot of hot takes out right now about how like Putin is implementing Dugin's plan for like Russian resurgence, basically to build the new like Eurasian, like holy Orthodox, like Soviet socialist,
I don't know.
Empire.
I mean, I feel like, does Putin really subscribe to Dugin's like esoteric ideas, or does he just want to expand for, his own reasons? And Dugin also wants Russia to expand.
I think it's more the latter. From everything I've read, is that like like with everything with this fucking conflict and every attempt to like understand Vladimir Putin, they just end up kind of like running headfirst into like, I don't know, they're gobbling down their own psyops like without thinking twice, and
they're incredibly stupid. It's incredibly frustrating and appalling. I don't know. We might do like an episode about it. I'm not sure what the angle would be, but it's just it's infuriating.
I just want to find an angle that is not what like most of the angles are.
Exactly. It had to be like interesting in and of itself, and not just like it's annoying.
Pretty crazy.
Like
huh?
people, they're sanctimonious and like hypocrites. But at the same time, yes, it's bad, but like it's anyway, whatever.
War's never good, but okay,
it's never good. He's responsible for his own actions. However, this context, okay.
But
I'm seeing this Rasputin behind Vladimir Putin article somewhere else too. It's like everyone is all about this.
Yeah, because if you type in, I wanted to do a little refresher, so I just typed in Alexander Dugin, and like every article on Google is like meet Putin's mind or like sorcerer. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, I see an article here on Project Syndicate by our favorite Yugoslav philosopher, Slavoj Žižek, who calls Alexander Dugin Putin's court philosopher. And there's a lot of things like basically, or like this Guardian article, the anti-Semitism animating Putin's claim to denazify Ukraine, et cetera, et cetera. And they all just assume.
I mean, they are like swarming with Nazis. Like, Russia has tons of Nazis too, but like they are swarming with Nazis. Like, I mean, Putin is kind of right that like Russia and Ukraine like definitely have a strong historical relationship. There's a lot of cultural similarities, and a lot of the things that all these people say about Russia like could definitely be said about Ukraine as well. It's incredibly corrupt. It's like controlled by oligarchs. Like
it's owned by oligarchs and cronies. Yeah, like what the fuck do you think Ukraine is run? The only thing is like
Nazis.
Like, Russia doesn't have like Jon Stewart as its president, but that's pretty much the main difference.
The hero, the glorious hero.
Yeah, exactly. So the servant of the people himself. So like, but everyone just takes as like as just fact that Dugin is like Putin's main advisor. Like he is friends with Steve Bannon to some extent.
Yeah, he's his guru. Yeah,
and he's kind of sus in a similar way as Steve
I almost feel like
Bannon.
he has equally much influence like outside of Russia at this point. Like,
I would arguably so, because what a lot of people keep saying, that articles that aren't like pounding this into the dust, is that look, like Dugin is actually like kind of marginal. He's kind of a marginal figure in like Russian politics, and while he shares a lot of the similar outlooks that like the kind of united Russia, like Kremlin leadership around Putin has, they kind of view him a little bit as like a bit of a crank and a bit of a weirdo. And because of his like mysticism and all that other stuff, and I could be wrong about that, but I haven't seen anything that indicates that Putin is like really into the more like mystical side of the kind of ideas that like a lot of the takes that Dugin has, because Dugin has some like very hot takes that are like, you know, about like philosophy, about civilization and geopolitics, but like the general thrust of kind of a lot of their like political beliefs like are somewhat in sync. But I saw another person of all places on Reddit, like a discussion about like how much influence this guy actually has, where I think somebody made a decent point, which is that like they're both Russians who are kind of like Russian nationalists, and they grew up out of the same froth of like the chaos in the 90s and had their worldviews shaped by like common experiences. So it shouldn't be like too over. That's another problem with, I feel like, the US like Western coverage of like Russia in general, is this kind of massive, like whether intentional or not, like gaslighting operation of just pretending like the 90s didn't happen. And like, why would you be like, everyone still repeats on the news every night, like, did you know that Putin once said that the collapse of the Soviet Union was the greatest geopolitical tragedy of like the last 100 years? It's like, oh my God, he wants to reestablish the USSR.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
he's a communist. And it's like, dude, like that's just an objective like statement of fact for most Russians.
Yeah,
that, like,
absolutely.
It fucking sucked.
Yeah,
Like,
and it was a time when like Russia was really strong. Like,
Yeah.
you know, that's probably what he means. Like, and
that's what he means is like we had a functioning society. We had like a really
so
strong
stupid.
economy. Like we had a strong military. We were respected. We were
You know
the
what it's
second
kinda like?
superpower.
It's kind of like calling Alex Jones like Trump's brain. Like, you know, like yeah, they like
Kind of,
converge
yeah.
on a lot of shit, and like they probably some of this like the dross like that Alex Jones like produces like does float into Trump's like universe. Like, you know,
Yeah,
it's,
there's
like, you
there's
know, theories
ties like
about,
Roger
the
Stone and stuff.
Benghazi
Yeah.
being a blood sacrifice to cover up, you know, that SEAL Team 6 didn't really kill bin Laden or whatever, and and then Hunter Biden has it in some kind of, but they both like, you know, Alex Jones will criticize Trump when Trump will be like, get the vaccine or whatever. And Dugin has criticized Putin when Putin hasn't been, you know, aggressive enough.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think right now
And
it's
Putin
it's
didn't, you
one of
know,
those
listen.
situations where
He wasn't
like,
Rasputinized. I mean, part of the stereotype of Rasputin is that like the leader is truly in thrall to this person, which is definitely not the case. Like, you know.
no, I feel like, yeah, Putin
Dugin's really been
is,
pissed off at Putin in the past.
yeah, they're not always on the same exact page. And I think for particularly probably from like 2014 up through like this last month, he was in a lot of cases like critical of Putin for just not moving to like make a decisive kind of resolution in like the Donbass and like Novorossiya, which they both like indicated a kind of similar support for in 2014 when all this shit went down. But, you know, I think Dugin, was a little bit frustrated at Putin for kind of like dragging his feet and like not being more decisive. And so now he's finally like, oh, thank God, finally, like Putin is doing what I've been saying all along he should do. But it doesn't mean like he invited like, you know, Alexander Dugin into the Kremlin and is like, all right, tell me your plan, you know, or something like
or
that,
what
which is
should I
what people
do?
think.
Like,
Like, what should I do?
Yeah.
No, and it obscures how like the entire kind of like Kremlin leadership and like most of the like Russian government is pretty much like in accordance with this whole plan to start war, like, or, you know, this special military operation. Like if you listen to Sergei Lavrov, like he's articulating the same ideas as well. And, you know, there were other like Russian scholars, I've seen a few of them on like RT English, you know, that are also articulating, but in a much more muted, like not as wacky Duginist kind of way, but like kind of expressing similar geopolitical ideas of what they want to see happen. And they do have, I mean, like you said, like this idea that there's like a deep civilizational connection between Ukraine and Russia is not just like a wacky Duginist thing that he made up. It's not just like an insane like concept that
I mean,
sicko
definitely
Putin
not.
cooked up
I
in
mean,
his
they're
head.
neighboring countries. Like a bunch of people there speak Russian. Like for sure, there's a strong civilizational connection.
And they've been part of the same like
doesn't-
country
yeah.
for at least hundreds of years. Now, Western
Yes,
Ukraine
that doesn't mean
is a little bit
that
different.
Ukraine couldn't, in theory, be like a neutral. I mean, now who the fuck knows? Like, it seems like it's gone to complete shit. But like, there could have been a possibility, maybe, But like, you know, if you insist on like promising them that they can be in NATO,
That's the thing. Like they
and
knew
doing
that was a
everything
red
you can.
line. Everybody knew that was a red line.
Yeah,
I
and
guess
like
they just
why?
thought
Why? It's stupid, but
because
anyway,
you know why. You know why.
Yeah,
It's with
exactly,
control.
yeah.
Because if they can take it, they're gonna take it.
Yeah, it's
because
pissed me off so much. Honestly, I've just been pissed off by everyone. Like, this is not to do with Duke, and we should probably get back to the Duke and subject, but I've been pissed off by everyone, like talking, like, you know, and when you even bring up the hypocrisy, like even some of our friends have been like, well, you know, it's different because like America's more powerful. And it's like, what the fuck you? Like,
yeah.
yeah.
It's been tough. It's a little tough
Mm-hmm.
to have like I've heard people say like well, like NATO doesn't do anything bad. Like they're just like a
or like
they're just
it's
like an
okay
on paper
for NATO
alliance.
to
Like,
like
what do they do?
try to pick the next president of Ukraine or whatever, but like
Nobody's heard, it's like nobody's heard the Victoria Nuland phone call where she's like, Yates is our guy. Yates is our guy. Fuck the EU. Yeah. Like it's just so frustrating that like you can't get through to, because then of course, like, you kind of sound, hey bro, you kind of sounding a little bit like a Putin apologist.
I don't want to be mean, but it seems like you've been just getting a little tanky propaganda. Everyone like literally like, but it's not like tanky propaganda. It is exactly what like a bunch of fucking like totally normie like foreign policy blob CIA people said and warned about. Kissinger warned about it.
Yeah,
like literally it's not, but like now it's like, now it's beyond the pall somehow, and like you are literally like a Duganist. Like you've been hypnotized by Putin's Rasputin. If you
and that's why I'm resisting.
Incredibly like irresponsible to like try to cultivate this whole NATO relationship with Ukraine and to bring them into the fold, like and that is the context that has precipitated all of this, like for sure.
Absolutely.
And,
it can't,
he's responsible for his own actions. It's horrible, like when civilians die, the innocent people who suffer, like they do not bear responsibility. The Azov battalion people loading up their guns with like pork greased bullets, like
them a little bit.
They deserve it, but
you saw
mostly
that
the people who suffer are innocent people due to like this bullshit, and it's what so
telling
bad,
people to go make Molotov cocktails
there is a context
and throw them
like
at fucking tanks.
What really pisses me off is just like the sanctimony and like the incredible hypocrisy of like the commentariat around this. It's just like it's just
it actually gets to a point of feeling a little bit dangerous, because it's like it is so baked into the system of being unable to
like the lack of self-awareness is dangerous, because when you think you have such like the moral high grounds, then like things become like anything becomes justified,
exactly.
Like you can't see how like you've like your the country that you represent or like the one that you want to take military action has done worse, and how like as the during the unipolar moment, like you set the standard for like what is okay for a power to do, like you did things like you can't pass moral judgment at that point. Like you've ceded all moral high ground, so like acting like you haven't, like
it's almost gauche to bring up the invasion of Iraq.
Why aren't you playing by the rules? Like you determine the rules.
Yeah,
exactly. Like,
no, it's almost gauche right now to bring up like to make a compare, to do whataboutism and bring up the invasion of Iraq that was almost 20 years ago.
That's a Russian tactic. That's actually a Soviet technique.
Whataboutism. Yeah.
It's
exactly.
Whataboutism. Yeah, it's only Soviet propaganda would lead someone, like only being truly indoctrinated would lead someone to, when someone does something and then it's criticized by someone, to say like you did this. It's really tu quoque, an ancient concept.
Yeah, it is.
Whatever.
But I mean, now you really,
tu quoque fallacy.
You just can't say shit. And
just
we
because
have like,
I do it too.
We have the full West Wingification.
It's
it's beyond
the Redditification. Yeah, the West Wingification and the Redditification of geopolitics on an incredible level, where people are like, that's a fallacy. Like, no, actually, it's not a fallacy. To point out like that the United States has done this too, because they affect each other, because it's connected in a geopolitical system, and one like establishes the context in which another one happens, especially when you're trying to establish like a sphere of influence like that is colliding up against the border of a nuclear power.
But you see, no, we have nothing to do with any of the problems.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
Ukraine.
Yeah,
We have
it's like
nothing to do
saying
with
like,
any of
oh,
it.
you shot me. Like, what aboutism? Like, you know, like,
Yeah, you shot me first. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, oh, what aboutism? Like, okay.
Wow. Yeah. It's really truly fucking staggering. And people still bring up like Operation Mockingbird, but I'm increasingly convinced that like we're on like the grandchild of Operation Mockingbird in the sense that it's a thing that was seeded into the system that maybe you had to directly control people in the 70s, but now it's like it's so baked in that like blue checks are just going to blue check now, and they'll be basically doing Mockingbird without anybody like forcibly telling them. Now, of course, I mean, can you imagine like a newsroom today where somebody like goes to they're like in a pitch meeting or whatever, and they bring up to the editor like, oh, here's an article about how actually like NATO like antagonized Russia, and like maybe they share some of the responsibility. Like, can you imagine the reaction in that fucking room?
Like nothing like about 2014 and 2015 has come up at all.
Not at all.
People aren't even talking about that. Like you'd think that at least like on, maybe even on left-wing Twitter, like you'd see people circulating the Victoria Nuland thing, but it's been memory hold. It's been memory hold.
The only video I saw, and I'm glad it did, but it was, I think it was only from like December, like, or maybe January. It was like very recent. And it was one of the members of like one of the leaders of like Svoboda or fucking Right Sector, one of these Nazis who was just bragging for a few minutes at like a Q&A, like some kind of press conference thing. He was just bragging about how like, oh yeah, the Maidan wouldn't have worked without us like Nazis. Like, are you kidding me? It would have, he said, without us, it would have been a gay pride parade. And he was saying like, yeah, there aren't that many of us, but like we were the critical force to like make things happen and blah, blah, blah. And he also was saying like hilarious shit that was like, yeah, you know what? If we got control of an independent Ukraine, it would be a problem for Europe and Russia and for everybody actually. Cause like you don't want to know what happens when Ukraine gets unchained, baby. Like he was kind of like bragging about how super fascist and like intransigent they would be if they got taken over by the neo-Nazis. And saying all this is like a very positive, but he's like, he's telling on himself, and you don't hear any of that. Or, I had to turn on like RT English to even see like they had like documentary retrospectives playing on loop about the 2014 war. And I remember kind of following it as it happened, but you never hear about it in the US media like after it happened. So it was actually a good refresher to just how much combat was happening. It actually looks exactly the same as what's kind of happening right now. Maybe there's more like fighter jets and airstrikes going on right now, but in terms of like the on the ground fighting, like shooting missile launchers, like all that kind of shit, and also like the atrocities against civilians, which is, I'm sorry, like it, like it's interesting how, all this talk these days about feeling seen and centering voices, but I guess like the Donbass, like Russian speaking Ukrainians don't exist or like don't matter, even though like 15,000 of them have died over the last 8 years. I mean, that's not a nothing point that, when they try to say now, maybe, okay, yeah, like what he's doing now is different than the low grade kind of insurgency war that was happening in Donbass, like prior to this, but we're still talking about a place that's had like pretty much ongoing hostilities for the last 8 years and is in like this limbo. And, you have these like Azov battalion types in the National Guard that are like shelling this area constantly and talking about how they're rats and they want to exterminate them all.
Yeah, I read an article today that was like, like some like basically like normie article about it. No, actually, it's funny. It was in the Intercept. It was in the Intercept,
of course it was.
Which was like, yeah, yes, there are neo-Nazi militias in Ukraine, but there are also in the United States. And yeah, sure, but like they at least had to pretend to not be if they are part of like the official military of the United States. Like, yes. They're not like openly and like, tweeting about like how, like they're, proudly being Nazis, like on their like social media accounts, like, and yeah, like Russia has like fascist militias too in their armies. Like that's definitely true, but that doesn't mean that Ukraine doesn't. Like, yeah, it does make like Putin's like desire to denazify them, like, like kind of hypocritical but you can't like just brush that aside as something that is real. Like it's not meaningless.
Yeah, but there's a real determination that we're just not going to talk about the Nazi thing, and anybody that does is spreading pro-Russian propaganda. Going back to like 2014, I remember so many people telling me like what? Like, I mean, even the last week or so, I'm like, well, there are like Nazis, and they're like, what? Like,
well,
no,
but the president's
aren't.
Jewish. The president's Jewish, and as we know, there is absolutely no overlap between those two domains. It is impossible for someone who's Jewish to be like a right-wing fascist, even if they're owned by like a oligarch who like spent time like ran off to Israel like while his predecessor was in charge, and then came back as soon as the great hero took over.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, the servant of the people himself. I mean, a cynical mind could say maybe that was like part of the appeal of putting an actor like Zelensky in the presidency, is that it's a lot harder to say that like it's a country that's run by Nazis when you have like a Jewish president. But
yeah,
I mean, I think the
I just
Nazi
think that they
elements
don't
in
care
Ukraine,
because I think that to a certain point, like the Nazi elements in Ukraine aren't necessarily focused on Jews necessarily. Like maybe that they are like anti-Semitic, but like I think that they are willing to make a tactical alliance with Eastern European Ashkenazis people, like
who are aligned with NATO.
Yeah, exactly. Like they, and who have like powerful connections to like Israel. Yeah, I mean Israel definitely is not opposed to any kind of that's part of their, I feel like their ideology at this point is like we need to become a little bit Nazi ourselves. There's a little bit of a jealousy going on there.
Didn't they get Otto Skorzeny's assistance to help train some of their security forces? I mean, this is nothing new. Literally, like. Going back to the 50s, I mean, I think we talked in our Martin Bormann episode about how, like, allegedly the individual that was Martin Bormann was became friends with a lot of like wealthy Jewish businessmen in, I guess, in Argentina, right, in Buenos Aires and stuff, and kind of, even though he was still pretty much like a Nazi, but there definitely was a kind of a shift with some of the Nazis like after World War II. And I think especially as like Israel got more established, realizing that, these guys could be good kind of, tactical allies to accomplish, a variety of like right-wing objectives in the world. And so that's why you get this like strange bedfellows thing. I think it would be a mistake to say like Zelensky is a Nazi, because that's like not his background, and I don't think that
Zelensky isn't a Nazi, but he has like cuddled up with them because of their powerful influence in Ukrainian politics.
He's like tolerant of them. Like he's not like he called Bandera a cool guy. He literally called Bandera a cool guy who fought for his country.
It's totally cool to idolize him. Yeah, exactly. like it's not as like, I mean, it's bullshit. Like, I mean, it's the same thing as like saying like, I mean, there's plenty of Jews who like are totally chill with like basically Nazis. Like it's just a ridiculous like deflection. We shouldn't even be entertaining it. But like, yeah.
But having Dugin there just makes it all the easier to kind of flip it on its head and say that, Russia's the real Nazis in this situation.
Yes, they are.
Which, I mean, there are Nazis. Like Russian nationalism is not my... I do not put that on a pedestal at all.
And like the Wagner Group is like a sus organization.
Yeah, Wagner Group is pretty sus. They're popping around Africa and stuff, and the leader looks to have some. Doesn't he have like SS tattoos?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure he does. I wouldn't be surprised.
So like until the red flag of the sickle and hammer is like raised over Kiev, and the Humpty Dumpty is put back together again.
It's all Lenin's fault that this happened in the
first place,
Lenin's according to Putin. Yeah, maybe Dugin told him that. I don't know, but
that was a real galaxy.
They do meet regularly, but Dugin said that Putin still remains a mystery to him. He says the president of the Russian Federation pronounces phrases in each of which one person's office contradicts the other. For example, the president says it is necessary to strengthen national sovereignty, and for this to strengthen the process of globalization. So, that's one thing that he's upset. Putin's a mystery to him, but he still strongly supports him.
Yeah. I mean, that's the very common thing with like Putin, is that like so many Russians, and I think that's a hard thing for Americans to like wrap their head around, because like we were
Well,
in
certainly
Russia.
not people. I mean, another thing with the whole discourse around this is I think that it's heavily inflected by, I mean, it's has to do with the psychological scars of the Trump presidency. Like it's people like acting out there, like they feel that they were attacked by Putin. Like they like that whole like Russiagate psyop is like
Yeah.
bearing its fruit now. Like they think that like this is just like they think that like the death of like 2,000 innocent people is just like, you know, a minor front in the real war, which is when Putin sent his trolls and bots to, you know, impose Trump upon us. Like that's like really what's going on in all these people's minds.
Really the
And,
greatest geopolitical travesty of the last 100 years.
yeah, and that's why, like, you know, I think that that's why they were able to draw on such a reserve of hatred for Putin, is because like they're able to tap into their well of like Trump trauma that they have, and like seeing him kiss Putin on SNL and everything, which is real them, and you know, stuff like that. So
it's really like it. All of it feels almost like so well orchestrated to like break people's brains over the course of like the last decade or so, and get us ready for almost this like really like poorly conceived apocalyptic like confrontation with Russia.
It's demented. It's truly
really
like,
is.
you know, yeah, the hopefully like cooler heads will prevail, and like we can just, well, that's the thing. Like we like you know, like Jen Psaki being like, we don't talk to people who invade sovereign countries, sweetie. Like,
Yep,
okay,
exactly.
Like, yeah, like what the hell? Like, are you serious? Like, you don't have the right to act this way. Like it's your, almost in a way, like it's your responsibility. If you want to be like the sole superpower, if you want to not have Russia expand, and you know, then it's your responsibility to like embody the values that you want the world to have, and like try to make like, you know, end this like horror that's gonna just. But no, you just want to have Syria part 2.
But
where an entire
sweetie,
country's
we don't
destroyed.
negotiate with Trump enablers.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we just don't. I mean,
yeah.
come on.
Because
yeah,
he's invading a sovereign country.
I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this article.
Not a good look.
There's an article from November 2021 that is kind of indicative from the Bulwark. I forget what their angle is, but they say, "Meet the Texas secessionist movement, brought to you by Russia. The Kremlin continues its care and feeding of American extremist groups." Like, let it the fuck go. Like, oh my God. Like, Texans like secede. Like, Texans like to talk shit about seceding. That's not a Russian thing that they like invent. It's not like a Russian invented thing.
Well,
but
is this like a minor thing like funded by Russia, where like they have like their little like shell organizations? Like, I mean, they do that.
Excuse
but,
me,
like, how
Khaled.
significant is it?
It's one of their secession is one of the Kremlin's active measures campaigns. Promote fringe wackos abroad and hope that eventually they break something. This may not sound like much of a plan, but it sometimes works. Putin has been openly building his portfolio of wackos for a while, and the wackos have begun breaking things. Okay, so I guess there's the Texas nationalist movement. This article, I guess, gets into Dugin's like malicious influence.
It's also funny because it's like, oh, like the FBI doesn't create like a bunch of fake nationalist groups, like, you know.
Yeah, pretty much run them whole cloth.
And storm the Capitol.
I mean, and this does like this is interesting. Okay, so there was a 2015 gathering.
The anti-Semitism animating Putin's claim to denazify Ukraine is an article I came across by searching Dugin.
yeah, it's the first one that pops up. It's the first one.
That's truly great.
I guess.
Or it could just be the incredible, like, significant presence of Nazis in Ukraine that he's exploiting. Like, again, as we said, like, doesn't mean there's no Nazis anywhere else, but like, he is referring to something real.
A real political phenomenon in that country.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that every
no
single
democratic
Ukrainian's
country
a
is free of
Nazi.
far-right nationalist groups, including the United States. Like, but why is the Azov Battalion part of the National Guard? Why do they get to like tweet from the official National
like you
Guard
can't have
account?
it both ways. Like I know for a fact that like not all there are Ukrainians. Like I know Ukrainians that are not Nazis and they hate Russia. Like
Yes.
I totally get it. That's a real constituency. But
yes,
there's a problem because there's also Nazis, and those people kind of have a choice to make over should we tolerate standing side by side with Nazis who also hate Russia, or should we feel like that's a line too far and we want to talk about it and, protest against. We want an independent Ukraine, but we don't want these fucking Azov battalion Nazis running around building statues to Bandera, like marching around with torches and shit. But like the problem is, it seems like with the post 2014 regime, that is not a permissible political opinion to have in Ukraine. That like we need to get rid of the Nazis, because I think, it means you're probably a Russia apologist if you want that, or the Nazis don't exist. Nazis don't exist. What are you talking about? So I feel like there's probably a large constituency of like people who don't like Russia and don't like the Nazi gangs either. But like, it's complicated. But you can't just ignore the existence of the Nazis and the role they're playing in it. I mean, at the same time, I am reading, this Bulwark article about the 2015 conference in Moscow, where in St. Petersburg, organized by Rodina, the Motherland Party in Russia, which is like, they call it the fascist adjacent offshoot of Putin's United Russia Party. So they had the likes of German neo-Nazis, the KKK, Greece's Golden Dawn, and Roberto Fiore, the Italian terrorist responsible for the 1980 bombing in Bologna that killed 85. That was like a Gladio bombing, where they could gather and praise Putin's defense of Western, read white, culture. Here, featured on Rodina's website, is Nate Smith, the Texas, movement executive director in attendance. Russia's info warriors were very pleased with his comments at the event. This skullduggery got so bad, and Robert Mueller indicted 13 Russians who were working with the Texas secessionist movement in 2016 to, please put down your coffee, spread misinformation about Ted Cruz during the presidential primary in order to help Donald Trump. That's actually funny, because I wonder if that was the rumor that his dad was involved in the JFK assassination, which is the one rumor, like, thing that Trump said that I think is actually true. So, you know what? If that's what they did, it might be true. So I guess there was the Council of Conservative Citizens also went, which was, I don't know, praised by Dylan Roof in his manifesto.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of people like pictures of Ukrainians wearing like Rhodesia patches, like
he would have been a good recruit to go and fight there.
Yeah,
and
if only. Yeah, too bad he was misdirected. He could have been a hero.
I can definitely see them stretching here, because then they bring up Atomwaffen, which venerates Roof as a hero, and Atomwaffen was founded by a teenager in Florida using a messaging platform created by a Russian. So Telegram.
I mean,
Okay.
It's so much they want to and like most of the stuff is from the United States itself. Like this Guardian article about the anti-Semitism driving Putin's claim to animating Putin's claim to denazify Ukraine is like the biggest stretch I've ever seen. It's like literally because, he says that, well, they use the same thing, like Zelensky's Jewish, so therefore that's an absurd claim. Furthermore, fascists view the real victims of Nazis as being Christians, and the Jews are like just whining and complaining and like, stealing the spotlight. And so therefore it's anti-Semitic to say that you want to denazify.
Allegedly, this article says that Alexander Dugin befriended David Duke in Russia.
Wow. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised by that. I mean, like...
Yeah, there's a picture of them together.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm saying. He like kind of, he basically is like a fascist. I mean, he probably
this is why
has
I don't fuck with
disavowed his
Dugin at the end of the
past.
day.
Yeah. Although I wonder, like, I think that there probably is value. Like, I feel like his ideas, like, he really is like the most famous exponent of like the pretty influential, like evil style traditionalism, like, which I think still does have like some influence. And yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like I'm reading this article now from Balt Info about like a speech Dugin gave where he was, he's sort of talking about, the Eurasian sort of alliance that he would like to build. And he says, he recently visited Iran.
He loves Iran.
He went to calm. Yeah, exactly. And, he was delighted with the willingness of the local mullahs to die in the last battle with the forces of good and evil. But, he says in order not to be accused of excessive sympathy for Islam
Alexander Gelevich immediately told about his long trip with Alexander Prokhanov in 1992 to the former Yugoslav city of Banja Luka, where they met beautiful, almost 2-meter Serbian soldiers who were going to die for a strategically unnecessary mountain because it is their mountain. But I feel like that kind of calculus like factors in like on both sides, where like, yeah, in his vision, like extremely like anti-Muslim like Serbs can like unite with the Iranians. And like, I think that same mentality, Ashkenazi, Eastern European Jews, and, you know, their oligarchs can unite with the far right fascists. And probably they like Russians feel the same thing. There's probably sort of contradictions in like the Russian formulations, like as well, I would imagine. I mean, like,
oh yeah, definitely.
You know, just the very fact that like there's probably Chechens like on both sides of this fight, for instance.
They're literally, I mean, you have like probably the leftover ISIS mercenaries fighting with Azov, and then you have like
and also probably like you know the Chechen Mujahideen, who are like the descendants of like the, you know, belligerents in the Chechen war.
Well, actually, no. What's interesting is that most of them switched sides during the Second Chechen War, and
some of them
Kadyrov.
did.
Well, most of them, and then the ones that switched killed a lot of the ones that didn't. So
yes, that's
like,
true.
Yeah, so there might be some kicking around, or maybe Dagestan.
I mean, they're definitely like a lot of the people who were like who came back to Ukraine. A lot of the ISIS people who came back to Ukraine were
those
like,
type of Chechens. The ones
exactly.
that didn't go with Kadyrov.
Yeah. Right.
But,
yes.
But Kadyrov is like leading. He's in Ukraine right now, like leading his like battalion of Chechens.
Yeah, the Kadyrov Xiii.
Posting on TikTok like all the time. Or he's a big Instagram guy.
Right. Yeah, and I honestly wonder like if something similar to what happened with Kadyrov's father might happen in this situation, because that was like a big switch. You know, like it's crazy.
Yeah, the father
like,
was like a secessionist,
Ahmed
basically.
Kadyrov. Yeah, exactly. He was a big secessionist. But he, like, even up until 99, he was like saying like, you know, we must fight Russia. But then like he suddenly switched.
Interesting. Yeah.
And
now Kadyrov like pretty much runs the place. His son runs the place.
Yeah. Well, he's the head of the Chechen Republic. Yeah. And I mean, he's like not a good person.
You know what I have here? What Alexander Dugin posted on Facebook when the Ukraine, you know,
I'm sorry to maybe
off.
We'll go into Dugin at another opportunity, because I'm sorry to this person for hijacking their Dugin questions, just generally spiral off about Ukraine. Not that we didn't do that with every other question, but still.
I mean, it's relevant. It's relevant. And this is his statement about Ukraine.
All right, let's hear it.
So at least we can hear directly.
What does Dugin have to say about current events? Yeah.
So he says, this is not a war with Ukraine. This is a confrontation with globalism as a whole planetary phenomenon. Confrontation at all levels, geopolitical and ideological. Russia rejects everything in globalism, monopolarity, Atlanticism on the one hand, and liberalism, anti-tradition, technocracy, great reset in one word, in another. It is clear that all European leaders are part of the Atlantic liberal elite, and we went to war with her. Hence is their normal response. Russia is now being excluded from the globalist networks. She has no choice anymore, either to build her world or to disappear. Russia has taken a course to build its world, its civilization, and now the first step is being taken. But in the face of globalism, only a large space, a continent state, a civilization state can be sovereign. No country will last a complete blackout for long. Russia is now creating a field of global resistance. Her victory will be the victory of all alternative forces, both the right and the left and all nations. As always, we begin the most difficult and dangerous processes, but when we win, they all share. That's the way it's meant to be. We are now creating the premise for true polypolarism, and those who are ready to kill us now will be the first to use our feet tomorrow. I almost always write what then comes true. This too will come to pass.
You know, that's interesting because, you know, when you put it in those terms, it almost does start to make sense of some of the things that don't make sense about this, like, and sort of shifting attitudes, like politically between like Ukraine and Russia, some of the weird, like kind of gamesmanship and like the feints and the deceit that seems to have happened on both sides, or like maybe like if you think of it as more than just a quest to conquer Ukraine, but like some kind of, or, you know, to take certain concessions from Ukraine or hold certain territory
You know,
Yeah.
maybe if you don't think of it as simply a political goal, maybe if you do think of it as something that is really directed against, maybe this does kind of cede some ideological ground to the blue checks who obviously see it as an attack on them. But
Mhm.
like maybe if you do see this as directed like somehow westward against globalism, it starts to make like a bit more sense.
I think that's absolutely true. And I think that's a better way to look at it than just looking on like the narrow geopolitics of like he wants to get Ukraine. And like, of course, this is a strategically significant kind of area and all that stuff. But I think the choice to go in the way he did and pop off and like start this conflict, because he knew, I mean, it's not exactly a secret what like
I mean, he stated that it had to
countries-
do with NATO. Yeah, exactly.
he
But
stated, he's like, that was one of his conditions was like, I want like a promise that like Ukraine will never join NATO. And I think maybe a few times he said
they promised the opposite. Yeah, even though like
yeah, well, no, we're not
refused to
going to
promise
stop
it. Yeah, and now
yeah.
like now it's too late. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, I don't think he's gonna get like that necessarily. Well, we'll see. It might just become like a horrible, maybe in time, but it'll just be a disaster.
Yeah, but the economic ramifications of it are should not be overlooked because
That's true.
like
Yeah.
everyone, I think that's one thing a lot of people are freaking out right now is like Russia is totally cut off. They're almost on like a DPRK level of being cut off from the global economy. And like, is this going to cause absolute like chaos? Is it going to make Putin like overreact as like Russia collapses in on itself? But
exactly,
we can't
the sanctions
ignore
are incredibly aggressive.
they're
incredibly
really aggressive, but
Yeah.
we can't ignore like who's standing on Russia's side in all this. China. Like
Yeah.
China's not cutting ties with Russia at all. They're increasing their ties actually. Like they're going to start selling gas to China, and it seems like the thinking is that whatever we get cut out from, like whatever disadvantages these sanctions cause, like China's the biggest manufacturing nation in the world and we have a huge border with them, and whatever we don't get from Europe anymore, we'll get from China. And so I think also you might be looking at this might be a bold effort to like hasten.
And that's what a lot of the FOPO like spooks said was what, the opposite of what should happen was that we should try to become friends with Russia against China. I mean,
that's why like some of the
fighting a war with either of them, but that is what they.
That's why I think you get these right wingers like Tucker. Everyone's mad about it, but like Tucker, Steve Bannon, like Alex Jones, like Michael Flynn, like all these people that are kind of like
Dugonists of a sort. Yeah,
they are kind of. They're fellow travelers.
They're defectors from Atlantis.
They kind of are because they view, hey, you know what? Russia is like white. They're Christian.
They have blue eyes.
They're basically capitalist. Like they are. They actually listen to what Putin says. Putin hates communism. Like he always talks shit about Lenin. Like he's not gonna raise that red flag again, unfortunately, in my opinion. But it'd be like cooler if he did. But that's like there's actually not a lot of like ideological incompatibility between like Putin and like a Steve Bannon or a Michael Flynn or somebody like that, and they view China, they're obsessed with China as like the huge threat. So like that's always been like Brzezinski was all about that, Kissinger was all about that like that's why they opened up to China so aggressively and tried to become friends with them to go out to basically take out the Soviet Union. And then I think Kissinger even wrote about this like in the 70s when he started this, like we're going to take out, use China and our relationship with them to undermine the USSR. And then maybe one day when the USSR collapses or something, then when Russia's weaker, we could pivot back to being friends with them to counter China, which will be more powerful at that point, and just play these guys off of each other and make sure above all that they don't solidify tight bonds with each other. Because then what role do we have on the Eurasian continent if China and Russia are like on the same page and they're working together? And that seems to be what they're like that's the risk I feel like NATO and the West are running right now is like if they're going to do this like cancel culture but with global economics of like, oh, you want to trade with Russia? Well, guess what? Like you can't withdraw money from your ATM anymore. Like all your shit is stolen. All your funds are frozen. Then maybe there's going to be like an alternative SWIFT system that gets built. And then it's all going to be settled in yuan and rubles and stuff like that, right? So I don't know. we could keep going on that forever, but we'll have to I think tackle it next time. I think your dog is angry that you're spreading Russian disinformation.
He's like, how can you do that? What about those poor people? They have blue eyes like us. They have dogs.
Putin elected Trump.
Yeah, exactly. The president's Jewish.
Yeah. Well, all right.
That's what he's saying right now. But,
he's saying. Yeah. Okay. So
well, my own personal blue check over here is okay. I scared him away. I made an aggressive swipe towards him, and he scurried off to yell at me from the doorway.
Your dog isn't a Martian? Trying to undermine you?
Yeah. Well, he is projecting negative thoughts right now.
Yeah. Lots of negative thoughts, but
yeah.
Okay. I guess we can leave
Ukraine
it there.
Uses pig fat bullets to deflate Russian aggression. To deflate Russian aggression. This is just like some of the articles that come up if you are generally searching this.
It's really wonderful. Yeah. The very last thing before we go, on his website, geopolitica.ru, he had a hilarious article from last year called Humanity as a Lodge, which actually has a convincing theory about Freemasonry. He goes all about the history of Freemasonry and how, it eventually became this progressive kind of lodge system that was separated from actual Mason work. Speculative Freemasonry is what he calls it. And he explains the question I think we've asked before, why the Freemasons fall off in the mid 20th century when everybody used to be a Freemason. It was so important. Well, he says that today, those who call themselves Freemasons, and there are some, are either atavistic rudiments or clowns. They have no more reason to exist. Their historical program is accomplished on the planetary scale. All of humanity has gradually become one Masonic lodge. It is just a matter of time before the last step of the Masonic program will become the reality, the establishment of a worldwide dictatorship of the world government. But we see certain obstacles along the way, and I hope you know what I mean. We are this obstacle, you and I, the new coming race, the race of awakening.
Okay.
All right. He has a lot of Freemasonry articles.
I would be interested if we do an episode. Maybe Dugan could be an interesting angle actually. If we do an episode in this general vein. I mean, we purged, I feel a lot of our apoplexy just now.
Yeah, we did. We had to.
Yeah. I'm just reading this article in Providence magazine, which is kind of shares the conclusion that I think we came to, which is that Dugan's ideas are undoubtedly dangerous and should not be taken lightly. That said, Dugan receives far more attention and credibility from the likes of Lawrence Southern and the Western alt-right than from Kremlin policymakers. Dugan fascinates the alt-right with his anti-liberal, anti-globalist, Eurosceptic, and nationalist rhetoric. These useful idiots, along with reactionary journalists, grant Dugan far more coverage and legitimacy in the West and the Kremlin elites, over which he supposedly wields much influence.
Yeah.
The result is impressionable Western observers concluding that Dugan is an ideological leader when he isn't.
He's kind of like a fancier Sebastian Gorka in a way. He's a
funny.
more learned Sebastian Gorka kind of person that, he'd be over here doing Relief Factor commercials on Fox News, maybe in a few years if he has to flee Russia.
I mean, it's funny. The parallel to Rasputin is funny because even Rasputin is kind of a borderline it almost is time to apply the term Orientalism to the treatment of Russia. And it is kind of an Orientalist myth, the idea of
these Asiatic hordes and everything, punishing the beautiful blue-eyed children
his Eastern magic.
He has a video called Dante Alighieri, the canceled genius of Europe.
No.
Okay. Yeah. Dugan's expertise, the inverted world on the threshold of demonic reality. And then a video called Drain the Swamp with him next to Trump. I guess he gave up on Trump because Trump cucked out. He didn't go far enough. But anyways, yeah.
Perhaps we'll return to this, but
we will.
For time being.
For time being, we have to conclude for now. So thanks to the Grotto again for providing our questions so long ago.
So long ago, back in July, but weirdly prescient, perhaps.
But a promise is a promise.
Yeah, we're continuing to move through them. Like it's like Aaron Sorkin's The Newsroom at this point. We're like, responding to past events. All right.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll be back soon with another round. But until next time, dear listeners, stay vigilant.
Peace.
Money won't fix it. Power won't fix it. Sex won't fix it. Drugs won't fix it. Fame won't fix it. Lies won't fix it. Your life won't fix it. Nobody can fix it. This sickness is a very strange disease. You can't wake up till you're right down to your knees. That won't heal you. Medicine won't heal you. Potions won't heal you. Your doctor can't heal you. Your husband can't heal you. Your wife can't heal you. Your friends can't heal you. Nobody can heal you. You realize that you've been living in a dream. You see reality and wake up with a scream. Science won't save you. Religion won't save you. Art won't save you. I can't save you. Got your desires and you do just what you please. This sleeping sickness is a very strange disease. You can't wake up till you're right down to your knees. Love can heal you. Knowledge can't heal you. Understanding can't heal you. Faith can't heal you. Service can't heal you. Humility can heal you. Love can heal you. Conscious love can heal you. Conscious love. Conscious love. Conscious love. Conscious love. Abraham, Moses, in a sweet Lord Jesus. Blessed Muhammad, Buddha, Krishna, Gurdjieff, Ouspensky, Socrates and Plato, Rembrandt, Rilke, Leonardo da Vinci, Rumi, Hafiz, and Ibn Arabi, Marcus Aurelius, Johann Sebastian Bach.